And trust me when I tell you, things have only been heating up. These teams are fighting for a chance to make it into the playoffs, and because of that, I mean, there's so much crazy action to get into, and, you know, don't take my word for it. Let's check out the plays. Starting us off, it's a play that'll have you asking yourself, how did he do that? As Melee juggles and ping-pongs blighted right off the stage.
Because the projectiles are so ever-present, that reflector right there that you just saw is going to be in the back of Melee's mind throughout this set. But right now, Melee's doing a good job of getting around it, has the percent lead, and make it 64 right now on blighted stock. It's still being worked away at the combo setup.
At number 7, Red Ninja is just cleaning up the West as he gets this nice 3K to cap off the series.
Had a lot of fun with it too.
How does that win?
I don't know.
How does that in any world? How does that possibly win?
Here's what I can say, right? You have Big J5 running around in the back line on Roadhog just trying to cause havoc, right? You have a Symmetra teleporting all over the place. You have
Up next, there might just be a 4th member on the squad of RPI as the corner comes in clutch to take them to game number 5.
It's about as good as you're going to see for a team play off the corner wall, and RPI takes a 3-goal lead.
And with that, we have the fastest goal in this matchup so far. We started off with the quickest goal, the least amount of time.
Okay, spoiler for your intro this time. Someone gets a 4K clutch in this round. You just have to guess who.
I feel like the first time we've seen A side, now it's going to be Wukian with an immediate elimination onto Relay, making it a 5-4. But Optor might be able to, no, will find the elimination onto Louis, tying things back up. Not for long. Wukian with that operator takes out Safari. A real powerhouse player has to kiss this round goodbye. UK, they're 3 rounds away, winning their 3rd round and almost tying us back up. What a shot from Wukian there. It is going to be the Blade Storm taken offline, and by that, point Blade. Even without that Blade Storm, they may be able to win this one. Brown Baller with the 3. Can he find the 4? Jag? No, it's the right click that puts him in. Wukian with a 4K of his own to win Kentucky's.
In our top half, it's Sonics in his attempt to 9-stock NJCU that gives us this next play and this beautiful edge guard.
Things will go swimmingly for themselves as of right now. See Hydra playing at a massive disadvantage, already at 109, but 92 on Sonics. This was where we saw them actually take that stock against them. It was just a small little up B. One hit is all it takes.
No, Rabbit!
Way.
Rabbit! Oh my! Sonics is too clean with it!
For number 3, Shrusi's got some things to say as he just pops off for Kings.
So much to bear, and well, too much to bear. Shrusi, why take on 1 defenders when you can take on 2, maybe even all of them?
Why get a hat trick when you can get 5 goals instead? 30 seconds to go. Literally every goal of this game has been from Strucy, and you would go to think, you know, oh, obviously he's got a million shots. That's why he's just been putting on the pressure. Not really. He's 5 for 7. He's really accurate with what he's doing here. Not wasting his time because shots like this, they don't come every day. But for Strucy, it's another walk in the park. Give him the time in the air and he will do things like this.
Somebody call it. Somebody call it. This is unfair.
And in second place this week, it's the perfectly timed EMP into self-destruct combo that completely wipes out Wichita State in the opening map against Johnson and Wynn.
Self-destruct is there. Gentalian and Rogue combining for a massive fight win right there. 95%.
And in our number 1 spot, it's a tour de force that some would say is almost excessive from Nagwin as he shuts the door onto Delaware.
On the right side of the kill feed, Nagwen playing C long, doing a great job at it. Oh my goodness, even better! Trying to turn 2 into 3, not able to line it up yet, but there it is. That tour de force is a tour de force to be reckoned with. Nagwen taking out 4 to win the 7th round for UK.
Alright, and that is it. Now, I mean, what did I tell you guys? Things are only getting crazier and crazier, and with this wrapping up, that means there's only 1 more of these videos left to make. That means there's only 4 more weeks of playoffs left on the table that's going to be starting up in just a little bit, and I mean, what a crazy season it's been, and what a crazy...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Esports U, where we are set for our matchup between DVSU and WFU. I'm Horizon Cast, and that's Rare Adam. And Adam, should be a pretty good game set up for today.
Yeah, very curious to see how these teams go. Of course, a little bit of a rocky start to the season for both of them actually falling in week 1. But it does seem like Wake Forest, they had a little bit of a tougher time going down at 2-0 as opposed to GVSU, which had a closer 2-1 series. So very curious to see what these teams have added. Of course, new patch could be a new identity for these teams, but really just wanting to get that first win on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about it is when you have two teams that are coming in off of a loss, especially like, they have over the last week, one of these teams is going to have to walk away with a win. A number of ways that they can do that. Obviously, you talked about new patch means a new chance to reset. It'll be interesting given the early season to see how these players adjust. And, with a win, you can kind of reset the beginning of your season. You have 8 games to play over about the next couple of months. So it'll be interesting to see what adjustments they make and how they start to kind of rebuild their confidence off of a potential win.
Yeah, and of course, considering the new patch, there's a couple of off-meta things that sort of rose to prominence, at least. One of which is Blitzcrank Jungle. Do we think we're going to see it? Probably not, but I mean, it's always fun to theorize. But definitely a lot of buffs this patch, I think, is the main thing. Taking a little bit of power out of Eclipse. So we'll see if that changes the meta. Don't think it will too much so. I mean, considering we also have Worlds going on at the same time, a lot of that influence will trickle down to these level of games. But very curious to see what these two teams have added. Of course, we'll have to see what Wake Forest can sort of push together here. Last week was a little bit of a rough beating for them, and they really need to try and get some of that confidence back. And against the team that also lost, I mean, this is your sort of starting point. It's your litmus test to say if you want to sort of put yourself up against some competition and see if you can push forward. But GVSU, on the other hand, looking a little bit stronger, and we'll have to see what these two teams pull out, especially considering the meta picks.
So Adam, you talk about that. Let's look towards draft. Obviously, some of the scouting that we were doing, looking at kind of the champion pool available for both these teams. One of the things I noticed was the scope of champions available for the side of GVSU. So interested to kind of get your thoughts about what we can expect out of this draft as we get ready for the players to load into the pro draft.
I mean, I think especially with GVSU, we're going to see some more staples of the meta. I mean, mid lane, we're going to see your typical control mages and all of that. It seems like they have a very set idea of what's good and what isn't good, which is always good in a competitive environment, especially early on to the season. I think before you can come up with all of your cheese strategies, before you can sort of come up with your own identity as a team, you want to stick to what is strong. And I mean, especially with a huge tournament like Worlds going on at the same time, it gives you that identity to sort of know what's good. It says that, hey, we should be picking Aatrox as much as possible. We should be picking Misfortune as much as possible. We should be, banning some other things out of the way as well. But it just gives you that sort of idea. And sometimes that is all a team needs to really set an identity and get that extra edge over a team like Wake Forest, where the picks are a little bit more off kilter. They've got a little bit of, they've got a little bit of sauce up their sleeve, which might be good, may also just fall flat compared to what we expect.
Well, very interested to see what these guys are going to prioritize. Again, you highlighted it perfectly. I think some of the expectations that we can have, especially given the nerfs. You talked about the Eclipse nerf, so not likely we'll see Draven. I think even prior to the patch notes, that a lot of teams were trying to play the drafting game with Draven. Do you let this through? Do we get Callista? So I think interesting to see now that the item nerfs have come through, whether or not any champion or any teams will try and go towards that. We're seeing the first round of bans start to come through for both these teams, and they're moving through this draft very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, these are some of the meta bans that we were thinking of. I mean, even from Grand Valley's side, they want to take away those power picks. Silas has been such a menace right now, especially with the nerfs to Grievous Wounds a couple of patches ago. I mean, there is like pro accounts on Twitter that are just tweeting out how bad Oblivion Orb is in all these situations. So I mean, Silas
a little bit
of
LS.
Yeah, the biggest proponent of it is just Shakara's and LS saying, "Hey, this item sucks. Why are you building this?" And Silas is definitely one of those champions that you feel like you need to build it into, but it also just isn't a good item. So taking that off the table, just taking away that ultimate steal ability as well, and the hijack always good. On the flip side, though, Gragas not as much of a power pick right now. Victor is, and this is a new champion that we haven't quite seen as much of because she was recently reworked. Of course, we are on 12.19. Syndra's rework gives her effectively an execute on the ultimate once you get into that later stage, which is a little bit scary to deal with. Of course, the old counter to that was the Echo, but interestingly enough, Zed coming off the table really quickly too.
Yeah. I like to see that Zed pick into the Syndra, especially when you're considering the distance that he plays at. You have access to that potential execute. You can remove this potentially team fighting monster out of the fight before it even begins, and you can look to spread that control around the map. And the other thing is too, and I think which is interesting for Wake Forest, is them getting control over the roaming, right? Because if he can actually get down there with Nerium on that Zed, look to affect the bot lane or even go top to get Herald control, I think is going to be a key to success for Wake Forest.
Yeah, and I think especially when you consider the likes of this Echo Zed, you've got so much assassination potential that even when you pick something as strong as the Syndra right now, of course, this is off 2 days of experience with it on the new patch. It gives you that risk factor always playing something as squishy as a Syndra, and it gives you more risk in picking some of these squishier champions. The Lucian comes through as well, and this is an interesting one because it's generally seen as a low-range AD carry that can sometimes get punished by some volatile lanes. I'm curious to see what the answer is from Wake Forest. Of course, Maokai, extremely strong right now. We can't ignore that champion either. Super high presence rate at Worlds through top lane, jungle, support. You get that flexibility as your last pick there, and sort of gives you some shutdown tools for these two assassins that have already been picked up.
You talked about the low range of the Lucian. I'm absolutely in agreement with you. I think this is a champion that we don't see for a very good reason, just because it can be difficult to pull off. And so, yep, that's going to be the Samira answer there. I like that. So you deny some of the CC options there. You have access to the shield. Your trading is really good in the lane. And most importantly, man, getting those resets on the ultimate is really, really dangerous to lock her down.
Yeah, and I think a really interesting factor of this Wake Forest draft is it just looks like they just picked 3 ego picks right off the bat. They're saying, you know what, we are going to play our style. We do not really care what the meta is. Grand Valley looking a little bit more towards that with the Syndra pickup, the Maokai pickup, to sort of have that sort of stability in your draft. Wake Forest say, you know what, 10-0 or 0-10 does not matter at this point. We're just going to go in, we're going to have fun, and if we win while we're having fun, might as well go for it. And you see some of these bans coming through in the second phase. The Nami makes a little bit of sense. It's not as strong with Lucian as it was before. Of note, Electrocute doesn't proc off of your E as easily anymore, so you actually have to use 3 spells as Nami as opposed to just pressing E and letting it proc from the Lucian itself. Of course, the Ornn on the flip side would give you that sort of scary front line to deal with. Seems like they really want to take a lot of tools out of Ab Stigma's sort of champion pool and sort of combos that work well with this Lucian, just to sort of neutralize that lane a little bit and give Young Earth as much agency on this Samira as possible to survive these fights and pop off as well.
And I think the support bans there from the side of Wake Forest kind of signals that they feel that the Maokai is actually not going to go support. They feel to either be in that top or in the jungle, and I think that's probably the best place for it to go. So interesting to see what Grand Valley will actually draft with the Lucian. There are a number of heavy support engage supports that you could pick. Obviously, Alistar going to be the pickup there from Wake Forest. So Grand Valley, do you favor something like a potential Leona, or do they just go the Enchanter route and try and play around some of the engage that Wake Forest are trying to build?
I mean, looking at this draft now sort of pulling through, you can see there's a lot of disengage now coming through from Grand Valley as well. I mean, the let's bounce in the middle of a fight with this Zac coming through just sort of gets these assassins all over the place. It sort of separates out the front and the back line, so that's all sort of like a big mess in the middle, which can be quite good for the side of Grand Valley to sort of answer into that. Of course, we still have to worry about how much engage is coming through from Wake Forest now that we've got this Alistar.
They lock that in,
which is such a strong pick. Darius, though.
Oh, the Darius.
That's wow.
That was a quick lock-in on that one. So that is Toon World saying, I 100%. Okay, so this is actually going to be the Maokai going support then. It's going to be the Zac in the jungle. Okay, so interesting. And then the Aatrox hover right now, if Wake locks that in, they'd have some decent team fighting. There would be a lot to unpack if they don't lock in the tank here. Instead, choose to go that more damage-heavy route. It looks like it's going to be locked that in. Okay, so drafts completed. Interesting last-second lock-ins for both Grand Valley and Wake Forest.
A little bit of an interesting one overall. I think the main thing to point out is just the blind Darius. That is a little bit, ballsy,
yeah.
if we say so. It's a little bit more of an ego pick back the other way, but of course the Aatrox has the answer into it. I'm not 100% sure if it's actually a true answer as much as I think they wish it would be. Darius is one of those champions that can really snowball a lane. Aatrox might have a little bit of trouble in those early stages sometimes, especially with how long your cooldown is on your Q. So we'll have to see how Toon World wants to play that up against Aranchi, but I think very expected draft coming through from Grand Valley apart from that last pick. The Syndra being left up is something that you really have to keep in mind if you're Wake Forest, especially going into Game 2 and Game 3. If SSJ Stepfather has a really strong game on that Syndra, it's something you might have to consider banning out or picking for yourself on blue side if you opt to switch afterwards. But for Wake Forest, it's very all-in focus. They're all about these sort of pop-off moments, it's almost a team fight comp in a lot of ways with this Alistar, this Aatrox who can sort of reset, this Samira who can reset. But at the same time, it's a pick comp because you've got these assassins going for you. So Wake Forest, they have a little bit of an identity crisis in that sense. I'm curious to see how they play it out into the front line that Grand Valley have sort of drafted for themselves. But nonetheless, should it be interesting to see how these two teams want to play this one out.
Yeah, I think you highlighted one of the big concerns that I have for the Wake Forest comp, which is they have a tremendous amount of burst. If you're looking at Echo and Zed, obviously they can get in, get out fairly easily and burst a squishy target. But when you're looking at the comp that Grand Valley have drafted for themselves, they have a tremendous amount of frontline that's able to actually absorb that damage. So if you're Wake Forest, you can't really play this front to back because then you're going to be spending all of your time trying to kite away from all the engage that they have. Obviously, the Zac stretching strides and let's bounce is going to be a problem. The Maokai Ultimate is also going to create a lot of space in zoning, so it's going to be able to set up Lucian and Syndra for some of these decent team fights. The other thing that I'm a little bit concerned about when you talk about the Darius being the lock-in there is this is a champion that we don't see a lot because he can't struggle in the laning phase. Obviously, Aatrox is a tremendously good pick in getting through those early stages, particularly when you don't have a lot of damage to kind of fight him with. I would have expected Toonwell to actually lock that in himself, given the fact that they had access to it on that 5th pick. So interesting they've locked in the Darius, but it could be, I think, a signal of confidence that, hey, we're actually not concerned at all about your Aatrox. We think that we can not only lane against it, but we can out-team fight it. So, as anything, it's going to come down to execution in that top.
And I think especially when you've got a Darius, it's one of those lanes that can struggle if it goes even, if it goes behind, in that sort of situation. If you're able to get first blood on this Darius, you just are able to snowball the game so quickly because of, your mounting passive damage that can stack up, your execute as well. You have a lot more tools to sort of kill at 6 than the Aatrox does inherently. I mean, the other thing is that Darius is just an easier champion to pilot. Sometimes when you get into these situations, you can get a little bit of nerves. You can get that performance anxiety knowing you're going up against a champion like Darius. If the Aatrox misses an Infernal Chains or misses one of those sweet spots at a key moment, it could mean the turning point there. And especially when you've got a gank heavy jungler like a Zac. Zac likes to clear, likes to get that first clear out of the way, but afterwards, if you're able to start to jump on top of these backlines, if you're able to really look for the dive in a lot of these situations, Aatrox can sometimes struggle in that situation as well. Has a lot of healing in the kit, but if you're able to shut that down, if you're able to get on top of this Aatrox early, if you're able to put the Aatrox really far behind, it will mean very good things for the side of Grand Valley. I'm curious to see how this one turns out, though, because of course, Wake Forest comp is just super exciting and super fun.
Yeah, well, you talked about it. I mean, the team fighting capability for Darius is not to be underestimated, and especially when you're, rather than trying to find a specific person to lock down as Darius, you can kind of just swing your axe in a circle, get bleed stacks, deny any of the sustainability, and then just press R 5 times. And, if it's set up right, you end up with 5 kills. So definitely ease of execution is there for Grand Valley. I think Wake Forest, though, if they can execute on this comp, then it's going to be very interesting for them going into the second draft. Obviously, you have some picks that are standout, and then it introduces some questions, into the drafting for the second game for Grand Valley of what they choose to answer with. But we'll have to see how they do in the first game, because that's what's going to come down to is whether or not you actually perform on this composition that you've drafted for yourself in order to get any respect into game 2 or maybe even a possible game 3.
And I think especially when you've got this Syndra as a pick, it's something that not a lot of people have a whole lot of, I guess, information on it. That, as we said, 2 days into the patch, it's a champion that, got all those rework notes. Everyone gets those PvE notifications that show up on Twitter or something. It shows up on that Thursday or Friday. People are like, oh my goodness, this is so crazy. And then it's almost as if some people forget about it. They don't really test out the Syndra. They don't go on PvE. They don't have time for that. They're too busy playing like on live patch and everything.
Earth's out. I got time. I got to play Earth.
Exactly. Then it comes through and it's like, okay, maybe we need to start to look at this champion as a meta pick because it's available right away in this league. There's some leagues that do actually wait for the champion to have a week on the patch or 2 weeks on the patch, but in this situation we get Syndra right away. So I'm curious to see where it goes. Another thing I want to actually point out, it's very, very unlikely, but there is a chance that Nerium Oleander opts to play the Echo mid lane. Syndra versus Echo is an old school counter in that matchup. It's one of the counters that we saw 2016, 2017 when Echo mid lane, Syndra mid lane were super popular. And it could be the Zed jungle. Zed does have a strong jungle clear. It's a little bit wonky because you're really based on just trying to find kills as much as possible. But like any assassin jungler, that's really what you want to go for. Curious to see if they opt to go for that switch or if it will just be our standard goings with the Zed mid lane.
Yep. Before we get into games, we do have just a couple more minutes left of this delay, so it actually won't be that long until we get into the game. I do want to ask you a couple final questions about this draft, as we've kind of highlighted most of the matches from top to bot. Mid lane, obviously this is going to be a Lucian into Zed matchup. So I think this is an instance where you look at with Syndra newly reworked, a lot of Zed players haven't probably played against this champion. So you talked about, the PBR patches, people are not going to have a lot of information to it. Does that change the difficulty of Zed in terms of being able to kill the Syndra or shove the Syndra and then roam into a bot or top lane? Or is there actually something that he's going to have to be worried about near him? Is he going to have to worry about, potentially being out-traded in this lane?
I think the biggest thing about Syndra overall is that her laning phase is actually weaker than it was before. The main thing that they did is they raised the cooldown of her Dark Sphere, but they gave it 2 charges. So later on into the game, you're able to get that burst out a little bit quicker. She has this sort of Victor passive now in her kit, or like old Victor, not really old Victor passive, still current Victor passive, but like it's really based on how many stacks you get. You have to hit champions with abilities, you have to get cannon minions, you have to get levels, all that sort of stuff to sort of scale in. So Syndra's really strong in the later stages of the game. Early game, she's not as strong. So I think Zed can play the game very much the same way that they're expecting. They can look for solo kills going in at level 3, level 4 is still the same. But in terms of lane shoving, Syndra's a little bit weaker in the early game, gets stronger later on. But, if you're roaming before level 9, you should still have that advantage as the Zed, which means that the solution needs to be just a little bit more cognizant of that.
I'm in full agreement with you there, and I think one of the things that makes this Zed so threatening is the fact that he can actually get down to the bot lane so quickly. So if your Syndra going to be constantly shoved up underneath the turret, and then you're going to end up in a situation where if Zed actually is able to get down in that bot lane and get a couple of kills and get off to an early lead, then it becomes really difficult to kind of put this champion back in check in the later stages of the game, especially if you're losing vision control, which is one of the biggest things. You've got this spooky assassin just popping out of every bush, and then that squishy that you were trying to protect suddenly is dead, and so all the CC that you have on the composition for Grand Forest here, it suddenly doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, and I think that overall, you just need to be very careful of the snowball potential out of Wake Forest. No matter what, even if you've got this sort of solo QS comp, with the fact that you've effectively got 3 assassins, yes, I'm counting Samira as an assassin. I think definitionally getting it resets and stuff does mean that you have to be really careful. You have to make sure that you're not giving over early leads. This is sort of a Ooga Booga monkey comp coming through from them, and you need to not play into their hand. You need to avoid some of these early fights. Just scale up into your own. Of course, Lucian, not the best late game champion, but I think that you are avoiding too much of a trough in there with the fact that Syndra's stronger in the late game. So it's really just about playing towards your win conditions. And if that means you're just playing for this Syndra, you're playing for the Zac to get super tanky, you're playing for this Maokai to get super tanky, then so be it. There is a lot more. There's a lot more win cons on the side of Grand Valley in that situation. So in a lot of ways, I do have to favor their draft in this situation. Of course, Wake Forest, I want to see them win because it's such a fun draft. And I'm going to keep saying it because it's so silly that they just R1-2. They pick Zed Echo and they're like, oh, yeah, we're not going to elaborate. That's what you get.
Well, then I will be the Wake Forest champion. I'm excited to see if they can actually pull off the Zed, if they can pull off the Samira, and if they can make this composition work. I mean, what's not fun to watch about someone just getting exploded underneath the turret, and then they get out, and you're like, oh, gamer moment. It's just skill difference. I mean, there's some exciting things, I think, for their composition too, but it will come down to, we talked about a couple times execution, and the fact of the matter is assassins are a lot harder to pull off than just press R. And the other thing is too, is it's not like it's a Kali, in that mid lane either, so it's not an AP threat, so it's not something that's necessarily going to be able to get out super clean. So we will be excited to see how it goes. But ladies and gentlemen, all of the talking must now stop about what might and what could be, because we are on into the Red 4 Game 1 between Grand Valley State University and Wake Forest University. These guys run out onto the map.
Yeah, it seems like some pretty typical... Oh, actually, I just noticed something. League of Trees picked up the Maokai for themselves. So it's Zac support.
Zac support.
That's
interesting.
A little bit more interesting in that regard, because Zac support, I don't really know how well it does into the likes of an Alistar. You can't really engage with your Elastic Slingshot as much anymore, but it is something that I have seen brew up in Korea a little bit. They played it just as sort of a combination. You get that little wombo combo in the bottom lane a little bit easier, and you have a little bit more crowd control in your kit than the likes of a Maokai, but it's still a little bit curious to see how that plays out. But of course, just standard 5-point start, nothing too crazy to open ourselves up in this game 1.
Yeah, I think that opens up a really interesting possibility for Grand Valley in that bot lane. You talked about having the multiple forms of CC, so stretching strike will count as one, let's bounce will be another, so that kind of induces more importance of when Samira actually uses that shield to deny some of the CC, because if you time it wrong, you could just be finding yourself being janked into multiple members that are ready to kill you. So it's gonna be just red side start here. Interesting also to see how League of Trees is going to try and affect this early game. I think if you're looking at ganking timing and ganking pathing, Maokai is just that better champion to do it in terms of the early stages. So obviously lane priority going to be huge for GVSU in order to make sure that they get Maokai set up for those early ganks.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out is the Maokai. The main reason why it's been moved to the jungle is just because it sort of hides how poor the early game can be for Maokai still. You know, you're not really a champion that thrives in level 1, 2, 3. You're not going to get any ganks off there. But once you get to level 4, your clear gets significantly better. You're a lot stronger. Meanwhile, I said Syndra, might not be the strongest early game. That's a lot of damage still.
Yeah, well, it is going to have access to the area, so it's decent trading. It's nothing like the electrocute that sometimes we used to see from Samir of old, but it is still pretty good AoE trading. Obviously, once Zed gets to level 2, level 3, he'll be able to more efficiently trade, but yeah, getting early control of that mid lane going to be super huge for Stepfather.
Yeah, I think Stepfather just sort of asserting their dominance at this point. Oh my goodness, look at the damage.
Oh my word. He has seed is up. Yeah, Nerium going to have to go ahead and get on out of there. Didn't blow the flash, didn't blow the ignite to try and fob SJ Father up. But yeah, we'll still have to be super wary of that Syndra in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see
he's going to lose too. Sorry.
Yeah, it's really difficult for Nerium to walk up in this situation because it's just one combo away. Stepfather just needs to drop down the QEW at this point, and it should find the kill. Actually going in for it themselves, but once again,
stand up underneath the turret. Yeah. I think he's trying to find any way to push this wave out and find a potential reset, but already starting to lose some CS underneath the turret. Is very worried about stepping up now. No vision, so the Echo is hovering around here. Stepfather trying to play the lower part of that. Doesn't want to risk any potential gank. Palm Tree's going to ride behind here. He's going to caught underneath the turret. Thrown out. Palm Tree not going to be able to throw anything else, so doesn't have to blow the flash. Gets out pretty much scot-free and says, nice gank, bro. Tell me another story.
Exactly. Just doing their best to sort of assert that dominance in terms of the pathing. But of note, League of Tree is actually going to be able to sort of finish up that clear in the same time. So while Palm Tree did try and push Stepfather back just a little bit, it's still not affording that much space for Nerium. And this is a situation where if you're picking an assassin into the Syndra, you need to realize that your CS is going to go down. You just need to sort of eat that for yourself.
Conqueror popped for both of these guys. Not sure who's the better trade right now. Is Orianchi going to get grabbed up? Team will going to flash forward. Bleeding passive's active. He just needs to wait this one out. He's going to continue to farm. The channel's trying to go through the Orochi, and first blood for Toon World off of the passive.
Yeah, and that's what I was scared of in this matchup here. It's so difficult for Aatrox to just take that fight in mono level 1 through 5. That passive is going to be the majority of your damage as this Darius, so you got to be so cognizant of that at all times.
Be the recall here from Stepfather. It looked for a brief unconscionable moment that Echo might try and stop that back, but chooses not to do so and gets the reset off. But yeah, we talked about that early snowballing too. We're going to be very, very happy to have that first blood. Interested to see what he buys. Waits for the Sheen. So really, really big item spike online for Toon World already.
And of note, Toon World actually has the Ghost as well, so is able to chase down Oranchi if the opportunity presents itself. Yes, there is still the flash available on that Aatrox, but nonetheless, it's going to be something you've got to be worried about. Actually, interesting note here, across the game, no teleports. So all of these teams are sort of playing for themselves in a way, playing for as much combat power as possible, which can be good for yourself. It means that every single time you have a 2v2 or a 3v3, it is exactly a 2v2 or a 3v3. There's no real chance for any globals to come through, but at the same time, it could mean trouble if you start to fall behind. You don't really have as many windows to look for these fights. Meanwhile, bot lane, League of Trees cooking something up. Oh.
Gonna be the bouncing. Do try and get in. Young Earth just trying to make sure that he can get clear of this. Doesn't want to get CC'd up if he can possibly board. That's going to be the shield. Knock up onto 3, and they're going to walk their way out. So investment of time, but they do shove out the bot lane for WFU.
And I think the main thing was just the Zac was caught on vision there. The elastic slingshot range at level 4. Not as long as you expect. Normally you're expecting level 5, level 6, which is why you see that come through in the jungle so often, because you can avoid that sort of level 4, level 5, the predictability of it. But nonetheless, still a good play to sort of force the Samira off the lane. Interesting that she opts for the serrated Dirk start here. So could very well be the Eclipse Samira that we've seen pop up a couple of times. We'll be curious to see if that is the option they go for.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the earlier conversation that we were having even before we got into the game about players not being aware of some of the changes that get made through some of the patches just because they're focusing on either trying to practice or just because they haven't put in the time to do the research. Eclipse obviously has been massively nerfed off of this patch, so it could mean a difference in damage and survivability, honestly, for Samira. Interesting what she would go actually rather instead of the Eclipse, if maybe she would try for something like a crit build on her, which I don't think would feel great. Shield Bow also doesn't feel great either.
It's a curious situation where it's either shield bow or you go for one of those assassin items. I mean, I don't expect to see anything except maybe the Eclipse here. Would be curious to see what the mindset behind that is, but as we can see already in that top side, 600 CS lead, or 600 gold lead, sorry. 600 CS lead would be, 600 gold lead for the Darius already over this Aatrox, and it's really just preventing Aranchi from walking up and having any sort of interaction in this lane. Toon World is just able to threaten at a moment's notice, and especially with League of Trees sort of in the area at all times, you know, this Maokai sort of playing towards the top side with the 2 winning lanes thus far, it can be a little bit challenging for them to find anything. Oh my goodness, what's this?
Still gonna jump in. It's gonna be the knocker for the Alistar, but he's just going to buy a little bit of space, I think. So no serious engagement there, just trying to buy space. But speaking of buying space, Palm Tree gonna jump through a lot of space to try and get on top of Esther's Stepfather. I'm gonna be pushed out. League of Trees, again, just waiting around in the bushes, making sure that no one gets too crazy from the side of WFU, and we'll just walk his way on out of there.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is that we saw Nerium Oleander's ult go down. I think they were looking for a window on to Stepfather there, but unfortunately, Palm Tree just sort of burns the flash for nothing. Yes, the exhaust was expended from the Syndra on an earlier play, but overall, just a little bit of an interesting play to even bother with that engage the Stigma. Oh my goodness.
Now, Palm Tree is here, so it is a 3v2 of a Stigma. Not going to have any kind of ability to get out of this one, so should just be dropping. Can they survive on his passive, though? No teleport to save him, so exactly what we're talking about later, but he's not going to be able to respond. The Smite's going to get it, and now League of Trees may be in a little bit of trouble himself. Knockback, and it's a double kill. Young Earth going to be very happy to get that one, sorry. 2 kills going over. Breakbone manages to trade onto Riven. It's a 1 for 2 in the end.
Yeah, just a little bit of a messy play to start out of Stigma going in against sort of their better judgment, not really knowing where the jungler was, at least last seeing the jungler mid lane, so you know it's a 50-50 at that if you don't have vision of the play, but a little bit of an overextension. And the main thing about Zac is that, once again, you're expecting the Zac to be jumping on top of you every single time in this lane, isn't really able to get the connection on anything, and you don't have that ultimate yet available on Breakbone Branch or on the Zac itself. So overall, just a little bit of a messy play. A kill does go over to a Palm Tree. Yes, you're able to get one back onto the Lucian, but even then, it's just a little bit of an unforced error coming through. And now, level 16 Riven on the roam.
Stepfather just going to step back, does spot Riven out on the ward, so won't be in any danger there. This should just be a reset of the mid lane. And to go off your point that you just made, talking about the over-aggression kind of in that mid lane, I think that's kind of an indicator of how GVSU is feeling about this game right now. Obviously feeling a little bit antsy, feeling like they're a little bit stronger in this lane. And it was a little curious because they had such good control there. They were very, very patient with the way that Young and level 16 Riven were actually playing in that bot lane. So I think, especially given the fact that they blew all of the summoners there, so Young is still going to have access to the heal and the flash, so they weren't even able to knock it off the Simmer. I think is going to make the next couple of minutes of trading in that bot lane a little bit difficult. This Toon might be getting dove here. Palm Tree has access to the ultimate, so this should be a free play, and yeah, that's going to be Toon going down in that top lane. Easy peasy, just as you please, and that goal is going to be generously donated over to Palm Tree.
Yeah, honestly, well played from Palm Tree to be able to find the opening on that top side, sort of taking advantage of the fact that Toon World burned that Ghost earlier as well, and Aranchi is just a little bit tanky just to be able to tank up a couple of those tower shots. And again, this is a solo dragon going down. A little bit interesting to see the Maokai opting for this. This is often something Echoes will do. Tanks don't take it very fast, especially not a Maokai, but with no presence in the area, you know that you can guarantee that objective. And at least it's a cross-map trade, but thus far, Wake Forest doing a really good job in this early stage just to put the pressure on at the very least.
Nerium going to be ulting Stepfather underneath the turret. This will be the confirmed kill. The execution's not going to come through, though. Nerium's going to get out nice and clean. They get a dragon, but they lose their mid laner in the process.
Yeah, and the main thing about Syndra's new ultimate, it executes once you get to 100 stacks. So actually, of note, we're going to have to get a check on those stacks at a certain point to see exactly where the Syndra is at. But overall, really good play from the Zed once again. And thus far, Wake Forest actually overperforming, I think, what we were expecting of them, especially in this early game, just sort of playing towards their advantages, playing to snowball as well. Yes, it's only about 1,000 gold lead for them, but if they continue to snowball this, if they can find these solo kills, these outplays across the map, it will bode well for them as the game progresses.
Curious, though, that they did not choose to trade for the Herald, knowing that League of Trees was going to be in that bot lane. I don't know if Nerium ever actually saw League of Trees starting that dragon up, but of course, that's the pretty standard play. If you see the jungler in the top lane, then you just go ahead and opt for that neutral objective. But knowing that that dragon went down, I'm very surprised to see Palm Tree not actually play for that objective and look to snowball the mid lane or top lane even harder. I'm just going to be here. They're going to try and gank on top of Toon World. He just wants to go ahead and kite this out. Does not have access to the Ghost or the Flash. Gets the Whirl. Can he survive up long enough? It's going to be League of Trees getting here. Palm Tree has access to the ultimate. Shouldn't be too afraid. Oranchi going to pop the Iron Spike Whip just to sustain just a little bit longer. It's a long, drawn-out fight, but it's going to be Toon World dropping first, and now League of Trees has to beat a crazy retreat. Stepfather is here. Long, drawn-out fight. What else can they get? Can they manage to trade for something? Oranchi trying to survive right now. He gets another one. It's going to be League of Trees dropping. And now the Zed is here. Nerium going to try and lock down Stepfather. No stun up just yet. Palm Tree low on mana, and Stepfather should be able to get free. Gets the knockup from Syndra, but they will just make it out. It's going to be 2 kills for none. Meanwhile, on the bot lane, though, non-stop action, as it's going to be Samira Farr, and Young's going to fall, and so will Riven. Double kill for the Zac. Oh, you would have liked to have seen that gold go on to the Lucian, but you'll take it in response to what was going on in the top lane.
Yeah, chaotic fight across the map there. You saw how well Palm Tree was sort of able to guise that gank at the end, but even then, League of Trees showing up there, not a whole lot of damage on this Maokai, and that's something that you sorely need against someone who can heal up as much as this Aatrox. Of note, not going for the Eclipse, going for the Gore Drinker, so even harder to lock down at that in terms of killing them, and a Toon World with no summoners, as you mentioned, not quite enough to stay alive, and all of a sudden, Wake Forest, they get a little bit more of an advantage on this top side, which we were saying was the strong point for GVSU for a little bit. Conversely, on the flip side of the map, is Zac able to pick up a double kill in the bot lane. Of course, you mentioned it would have been better to go over to the solution, but nonetheless, it does afford them some space, and it affords actually the Gale Force already complete for the solution, so we'll have a little bit more kill threat on this bot lane as well.
Yeah, if you're Breakbone, you're not actually too sad about that. Obviously, you know, we highlighted that the gold is much better on that damage carry. But just the fact that you got the pressure in that bot lane, the fact that you're going to be able to contest for the waves and the complete item is going to feel really good. And again, the interesting thing off this, and we see this a lot in professional play too, where the team that kind of dies quicker in that top lane just gets the chance to go for the earlier objective. Again, curious that League of Trees is just going to go ahead and start this off by himself. Echo not really in the area, is pathing towards the mid lane. But, you know, again, just something that we see a lot of kind of on the trade is you give up kills, get the reset, and then be able to get the objective. Palm Tree waiting here, though. I'm not going to look for anything there.
Yeah, it seems like they're just going to back out of the play. It always seems like there's the onus on Wake Forest to sort of make these plays happen, and thus far they've had a rather high success rate of actually making them stick. But you know, you have to keep this pace up in the game, and if you can slow down the game as GVSU, you should be favored to sort of come back into this. You know, we've always been talking about how Wake Forest have had these sort of really smart plays, these proactive plays. They're only ahead 700 gold. This just sort of speaks to what the advantages they have garnered are really amounting to. Not a whole lot in the end of it. GVSU still just able to scale up over time. I want to point out CS difference in the bot lane there, about 15. Top lane, not really a CS difference, but despite, you know, the fact that Toon World died back-to-back there, and even in the mid lane, it's still mounting up in favor of SSJ Stealthfather. So overall, the advantages that WFU have sort of gotten for themselves, it's only really showing in the kills, not so much across the map. Granted, of course, you can see the Echo up about 1,200 gold. They're really going to have to play around Palm Tree in this situation.
I think the other thing that's kind of disappointing for GVSU, even despite kind of how the early game they had went with getting that first kill on the Darius, is now you have Darius in a situation where he's been stalled out, so he's not quite the strength that you'd like him to have. In addition to that, too, even the plays that you've been making, you weren't able to do anything with the Herald, so you aren't going to get any of those bonus plates. You're not really going to be able to get any pressure on these towers because even despite losing in that bot lane, no significant damage has been put into that bot lane tower. And so for WFU, that just buys them time to continue to play around the map. And I'm curious to get your thoughts, Adam. The gold going into that, kind of enabling this backline threat that we've been talking about. Curious to see whether or not, you know, that's actually going to pay off for WFU in the end. If he goes in, he's going to die here. Gonna jump down straight on top of Earth. Be the knock up there, and he's just going to try and bounce it now. Breakbone just trying to pour the Kovac into Palm Tree, and to convince him to go away. It's going to be the ultimate activation now, and what was a very scary jump in for Abystigma ends up being okay in the end. It's only an ultimate traded for basically no summoners.
Yeah, and I mean, to speak in regards to that matchup there, you know, the Echo really needs to try and snowball the game. And one thing that I've noticed just through my own solo queue adventures is that Echo, one of those champions where you need to be like 8-0, otherwise the game's over. You're not as useful as you expect it to be. So, you know, Palm Tree needs to continue this breakneck pace, but it's a little bit difficult, especially with the objective control that's now coming through from the side of GVSU. This is sort of their window back into the game. They can pick up these dragons and start to snowball that way. It can mean some pretty good things for them. But of course, on the flip side, Aranchi, given enough alone time to pick up that full top lane turret, of course, just after the plates went down as well, about a minute and a half, so not going to get as much gold as you could have, but this Aatrox getting left alone for so long, despite getting solo killed early on, hasn't really been that affected by it. Aranchi's feeling pretty good about themselves.
You highlighted earlier, too, Oranchi just deciding not to go with that Eclipse, I think is a great itemization choice, just because he knows he's kind of this front line for WFU, knows that if he can survive for long enough for his team to back him up and pour in the damage, that it will be kind of the undoing of GVSU. Obviously, you know, you're still going to see Toon continue to slowly scale up in this game. But right now, I mean, you perfectly highlighted, you know, GVSU, they are slowly starting to stack these dragons. So even though they're losing out in some of these team fights, they're more than happy to just kind of play this late game and wait for their carries to get strong. But Toon World stepping forward here, it's going to be the World Interpops. Therefore, Oranchi, but Toon World's bitten off a little bit more than he could chew, and Nerium's going to pick up his second kill of the game. And the Darius getting punished for being a little over aggressive.
Yeah, and this is the main thing about Darius. You know, you are able to snowball a game in your favor, or the game can snowball out of your favor incredibly quickly, and it seems to be the case there. Nerium, though, ooh, great shot.
That was a hopeful stretching strike to see if he could pull a Nerium there. I think very low chance of that play actually pulling off there as they're posturing towards this top side. There's not really anything to play for, so it would just be an all-out team fight. Again, no teleports, as we highlighted earlier on either of these teams, so it will just be a straight 3-on-3 for both of these teams. But, yep, they choose to just poke each other a little bit and then pass like ships in the night.
Yeah, just sort of a little bit of skill shot throwing out there just to see what they can find, if it'll stick or anything. But once again, it's just GVSU are sort of waiting for their time to shine in a lot of ways, but I think that they might be bleeding out just a little bit too much. It's something that they have to be cognizant of at the very least. I mean, this Lucian, very strong right now, but once again, not going to be the strongest champion once you get into that late game, especially when the likes of Young Earth are just going to be able to drop that Blade Whirl and block the entire culling if you time it right. Now, looking at the gold advantages as well, this Echo still building that up, 1,400 gold above their jungle counterpart, and it hasn't been because League of Trees has been playing badly per se, just sort of an overperformance coming through from Palm Tree, but topside, oh my.
Orochi's going to go ahead and pop the World Ender, but Toon World does have a little bit of help, but it's actually just not even going to matter. He's just going to solo kill Toon. Abstigma is going to jump in, not going to hold on for it. Breaker on his axis to the culling. Orochi's going to try and kite out most of it. Is going to land a chains. He's living so long. He's winning this 1v2, but the bouncing is going to be enough CC. Oh, that worked. That looked super sketchy there for a moment. It looked like Aranchi was going to get the reset, but Breakbone, just in a panic, throwing out as many abilities as he can, ends up knocking down the Aatrox in the end, but it's a 1-for-1 after all is said and done.
Yeah, of note, I believe that's a shutdown going back in favor of this Lucian as well, so that's a little bit more gold going in their favor. Of note, yeah, bot lane, SSJ Stepfather dies, didn't even have time to pop the stopwatch, so the Syndra getting punished in that weaker early game that we were talking about, but when she respawns, we'll get a check on how many stacks she has, and we'll be able to figure out where exactly on her scaling journey she is. I believe she's got probably around 60 to 70 stacks, which means that her W is now upgraded to do a little bit of bonus true damage. It's really once you get that E upgraded, which slows after it stuns and also has a wider cone, that we're going to see the Syndra really start to take off, and that's what we have to be careful of, because 100 stacks is where your ult executes. 120 stacks on that passive is where you end up with the Rabadon's passive, 15% bonus AP, just in your kit as in general.
Young Earth just going to casually walk away from that. I'm not even remotely worried about Zach jumping in. Now, Adam, I have a question for you, because I think there was a missed opportunity for something. If you look at our junglers, one says League of Trees, the other says Palm Tree. So why no other tree? Why no double tree? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a missed opportunity I hear as we wait to see these teams again to posture around the dragon, which brings up another point which is interesting. Is hold on, Toon World gonna get jumped on down here. Yeah, he's I think found himself on the wrong end of this one. We'll see if he can actually train back. It's gonna be the old committed from Nerium, and that should just be the end. Palm Tree. Oh, he's gonna steal it from the Zed. It's a little bit bad manner, but they will knock down the GVSU top laner in the end. But the question I was going to ask you before we were so rudely interrupted by a team fight, and it's not stopping because Orochi might find himself on the wrong side of this rift. It's going to be Scout of the Week thrown into him. It's going to be the jump in from Stigma. Can manage to win this fight, though. A couple of ultimates already lost here for the side of WFU. Is Nerium trying to knock down Zach? Not going to be able to do so, though. Team fight broken out so far. League of Trees just trying to buy as much time as he can. Low health bars for WFU. What else can GVSU get? It's going to be the kill on top of the Alistair. Now they're going to try and see if they can get out, though. They've gotten one, but it's going to be a shutdown given over. But it will be traded back instantly by two. Orochi picks up one, and so does Palm Tree. And now Stepfather just trying to run for the hills, trying to make sure he doesn't get stunned up. If he can make it underneath the turret, should be fine. Orochi going to land up one, but not go underneath the turret to pursue for more. And now the dragon is active. On Breakbone. Yeah, manages to get out, but it's going to be WFU with a huge team fight win.
Yeah, really big team fight win for them. You know, they're able to pick off Toon World before that even starts. Of note, they take down the Maokai, which is sort of the only way that you can get into this dragon and sort of steal it at that. The fight's not done.
Gonna try and knock down one. It's gonna be the Lucian collected the kill, and now Orochi is gonna get exhausted up. Breakbone should be able to knock this down unless Young can kill him first. He's gonna get enough to stack up the ultimate. That's a shutdown given to Orochi. And yeah, he's just gonna clear the mid wave. They're gonna collect the dragon. And WFU, they're gonna collect the commanding lead in this game.
Starting to get a little bit into that neighborhood of have they gone too far, at least for the side of GVSU. And you know, you're really trying to focus around this third dragon to get that soul stacking as quickly as possible. We might not be done because
they're not willing
jungler's
to let
back
this
up.
go.
Oh my.
Yeah, League is not willing to let this go at all. GVSU really want to fight for the soul because they know they're starting to lose a little bit of pressure in this game. They know that Palm Tree isn't up, so this actually should just be free for them so long as they don't get the dragon too low, but it's going to be the full team fight start. It's going to be the Zonias coming out there, but it's not going to be enough to save them though because Young Earth's going to get the ultimate, and now it's low health bars and WFU. They're more than happy to take that trade. We don't have to worry about you taking the dragon if your jungler's dead, and now it's just free, and they're going to claim their first dragon of the game in another team fight win.
Yeah, just back-to-back fights coming in favor of Wake Forest here. And, you know, keep fighting in the jungle. You may have the advantage of the Maokai. You may have an advantage of League of Trees on your side. But, you know, there's no palm trees in the jungle. It doesn't matter. There's palm trees in the Wake Forest. And that's exactly what they're playing towards. This Echo has been so pivotal in sort of starting off some of these fights and getting as fed as possible. And now this Aatrox is showing why it's such a strong pick, such a strong blind pick in the Worlds meta even, where, you know, 5, 2, and 7, not building exactly as everyone would, but, you know, building more towards what's strong in this path is now incredibly strong, incredibly hard to take down. And we talked about how Grievous Wounds is nerfed. There is a Bramble Vest on the Zac.
Yeah, and now
it doesn't matter.
It's just a buy just to try and survive a little bit longer than the way he has, because obviously Bombi Center's not buying you enough time. And Adam, there is a completed Black Cleaver on Aranchi. We're only 22 minutes into the game. That item is actually fairly expensive to buy for people who are not aware of how the economy works in League of Legends. That is a nice piece of kit to have for the Aatrox, which means anybody trying to stack armor here for the side of GVSU, you're just going to get shredded.
And if you look at the team comp as well, you've got a Zed, you've got a Samira, all of whom really want to get that armor penetration, but can't really afford it at this point in time. Having this Aatrox sort of provide that for you in these team fights is going to be so pivotal in sort of getting that extra little bit of damage onto the likes of the Maokai and the Zac. Granted, this Zac hasn't stacked up a whole lot of armor for themselves right now. Neither has this Maokai. Toon,
no, we've seen this episode before. We know how this ends. He's trying to just trade a little bit of, he gets Nerium low, but he's got the fancy feet, and it's going to be Palm Tree kicking that one up again. I feel like every time these two combine, it's just the Echo yoinking that precious gold out from his mid laner's eyes. But you know what? As long as you're getting the kill, it doesn't matter. And they should be able to just knock down this mid lane turret. But yeah, Toon just getting constantly caught in this bot lane over and over again.
Just really overstaying their presence in a lot of ways, and I think the main thing to focus on is Echo getting these kills is probably better. Echo does scale better into the late game than the Zed would, especially considering the fact that the Samira very likely going to be building towards a Guardian Angel very early on. You know, there is agency where you can go for even an armor item, like Death Stance, sort of bruiser item onto this Samira so that you are able to stay alive. So it's a little bit worrisome here because GVSU, as we said, going into draft, they have the more meta comp. They've got more win conditions up their sleeve. However, they're playing towards Wake Forest's win condition, which is just constantly fighting, finding as many kills as possible and pushing your advantage that way. Granted, you look at the objectives on the map, it's only been one tower taken apiece at 24 minutes into this one, so we might be in for a little bit of a longer matchup here. This is a little bit of a slower game in terms of the macro plays. You know, 3 dragons have been taken, heralds were taken and everything, but still, no towers have really gone down.
Stigma, I've seen this one before. He's going to get the stretching strike, and then he's going to have to get his way on out of there. It's going to be the full team kind commit. Now, Scout of the Week on the 2. No further follow-up from there. Nerium waiting, just trying to make sure he doesn't get CC'd up by League of Trees. So they will throw out a bunch of abilities, do a bunch of damage, and then walk away. And Adam, off of your earlier point, one of the things I want to talk about is, so we've seen how WFU have kind of really taken control of this game. Obviously, they're sitting at about a 4K lead. They have one dragon, so they've effectively stopped GVSU's one of their win conditions, which was this dragon stacking that they've had going on. For GVSU, I mean, who are you looking to get back in this game? Is Toon? Yeah, caught on his top side again. He may not even be able to get out of this. Is he just going to stay? What is he playing for? Yeah, he's trying to draw attention now into that bot side to allow him to play mid, but that's not going to work. But I mean, if you are GVSU, like, who are you looking to get back in this game? Because your Lucian is not far enough ahead really to carry you right now. Your Darius has been set so far behind, had a goal, or sorry, CS advantage. Now it's gone.
It's a little bit challenging to find your win condition here. I mean, it feels like it has to be Lucian, but of course that timer's starting to run out. Syndra's still going to be incredibly relevant in the later stages, but even then, you know, those are sort of your 2 damage threats right now. This Darius just going to be sort of a side lane monster, if anything, but even then at 1 and 7, not as much of a monster as you want to be. If we can get a check on the Syndra stacks, we might be able to get some more information in regards to if she has that ultimate upgrade, because that is an extra little thing that you have to play around. It's just 85% health. Darius is going to die here.
They know he's in that bush. They're bringing 4 people to make sure. trying to make sure that we all get assist gold. That way we can maximize the gold value of killing this guy. And yep, it's going to be 3 people at least getting the gold value, but they should be trading that for a mid lane turret. They're running up there. They didn't really expend much to knock Toon down, but all the same, they won't be here in time to stop the structure going down. So GVSU managing to find a way to get a little bit of pressure on this map. They're getting chased down. Arachi, he's going to pop the World Ender for a little bit of speed. Trying to get on a couple of people. Flashes forward, lands 1 Q, trying to land another. If they can lock up League, this would make sure that they can get the Baron, because if they kill the jungler, it's just a free objective. It's going to be the belt forward. Palm Tree's going to get it, and out. They're just going to run straight towards Baron.
Yeah, it's just a really nice pickup onto the jungler. Once again, Toon World just sort of caught sleeping in a sense. I mean, it was an expected play. I think they were trying to draw as much power. Yes, you are able to get that tier 2 mid lane turret, but you overextend, you overstay, and now Wake Forest just going to be going towards this Baron. This is going to be a window for them to sort of end the game off of this. They're up 4,000 gold. They're really looking to push as much power as possible through, but nonetheless, Wake Forest just sort of able to find as many advantages as possible. Yes, you'll be able to get onto Soul Point as GVSU, but even then it's a Cloud Soul. It's not really as impactful as you would like, and unfortunately, it just seems as if GVSU not really prepared for what Wake Forest were prepping up here, because even in terms of their drafting, they just sort of let them get these assassins, and then their answers weren't as strong as you want. Yes, you picked the Zac support, but what has it really done for you thus far?
Yeah, I'm in full agreement there, and I think with WFU, they're going to be very happy with the way this game has gone so far. Obviously, their picks are working for them. Yes, they do give up Soul Point to GVSU, but given that they've secured the Baron, that gives them the siege that they need, because if you're looking at this comp, they are very, very short range. You have Samira, and that's pretty much it, and then you have just an Aatrox, and while he can siege underneath turrets, he's obviously not a ranged champion, so this will give them some of the push that they need, and I think for GVSU now, you're really reliant on WFU overextending. You're really reliant on getting a pick on one of these pivotal members, like the Zed, Samira, or the Aatrox, and WFU, they can look to just play this slowly. I don't think they're even remotely concerned about the team fighting coming out from Grand Valley.
Yeah, I think at a certain point it will become a worry, and one thing to note is SSJ Stepfather has 110 stacks, I believe, so that means they're about 10 stacks away, 2 levels, or 10 cannon minions, or landing 2 abilities on champions 5 times, to be able to get that effectively Rabadon's passive, mini Rabadon's passive, where you get 15% bonus AP. That's going to be a little bit of a stronger point. I mean, SSJ Stepfather is strong. They can have that one-shot potential onto someone, but look at this fight once again.
The Stigma going to get jumped on by Nerium, trying to get over the wall. Ult's not going to kill in the end. Now they're just going to take a slow team fight underneath this mid lane turret. Arachi's going to be on the back. He's going to try and lock down multiple members. They're trying to jump on top of him, but it doesn't matter because Young Earth's going to slay him. And now they're just going to lock down this mid lane turret. That's the jungler dead for GVSU, and now the siege continues for WFU as they continue to move towards. They're going to go down the bot lane. I'd like to see them just go ahead and knock down that remaining structure, pick up the remaining gold, but great pick off there for Wake Forest.
Yeah, Wake Forest doing a really good job of sort of slamming the door and preventing any sort of comeback potential coming through from GVSU. You saw they were trying to find a fight under their turret, but with the Baroned up minions, it's so difficult to take him down. Nerium
He just broke everybody's ankles. It disappears halfway back up the lane where he started, and now level 16 Riven, though, may be caught out. If they kill him, it'll only be a consolation prize. Flash to try and secure that a little bit. Or no, sorry, that was the flash out from Young Riven, so manages to get himself to safety. And now it's going to be Nerium possibly on the wrong side of this one. Just back into the middle of 4 people. Not sure why he didn't just walk on out of there, but he's going to get shut down. That gold's going to go over to Toon World, which is not what you wanted. Oranchi, what is going on here? They're trying to just secure a couple of other kills. It's going to scatter the weak's going to knock him down. He doesn't have any other survivability once this ult ends. Breakbone just trying to put in a little bit of damage. It's going to be another shutdown going into Toon. He's going to grab another. It's going to be Young Earth's going to get knocked down as well. League of Trees knocks him back in. Shutdown goes over to Stepfather, and now this has gone horribly, horribly wrong for Wake Forest. They get punished in the mid lane in Grand Valley. They're going to be happy to pick up that gold.
Yeah, just a strange turn of events overall throughout that entire play for the side of Wake Forest. They were playing so well about just getting their one and then getting out and playing so well around that, and then they just sort of throw that away. They give it up for no reason, and now you're in a little bit of trouble if you're Wake Forest because you gave over a lot of shutdowns. You got this Darius back into this game with those shutdowns, and yeah, even though they're behind still by about 3,000 gold up on that top side, even though you have a Maokai in the jungle who's so far behind, Maokai doesn't really need that much gold, and this Lucian has been rolling in dough this entire game. It's a little bit of a worry point here for Wake Forest. Yes, they still have a lead, but how much does that lead actually matter, especially when you consider that tanks, they're pretty tanky on 2 items. If this Maokai keeps dying, it's like, we lost our tank, but what did we get in return? And in that situation, they got a lot back for themselves.
WFU employing that patented one in one at a time strategy that ends up giving over a bunch of gold. You would hate to see it too, especially since they were playing that mid lane push so calm and controlled. And now Orochi, he's going to get jumped in against. Direction Strike's going to lock him down. Scout of the Week going to buy a little bit more time to break throne, jumping a little bit forwards. Culling going to go in the back of Orochi, but he's not going to die. And now GVSU, they're going to continue to siege this out. Palm Tree is going to have to find himself back in the middle of two people.
Oh.
He wasn't monitoring where his ult was. He thought he was clear. There was no vision, and now he dies for it. And now GVSU, they are completely back in this game. They have the mid lane push, and they can just look to kite back towards the dragon. They continue to shove these waves out. And WFU, they have dropped a couple of pivotal plays here, giving over gold to the people they don't want to be. And now they might be giving over drag point or drag soul here.
That's a really scary prospect here. GVSU just getting the soul effectively for free. You know, there's no sort of contest around it. Of course, spawning in 30 seconds, still going to be a little ways out, but there's just so little vision. Thank you to our observer for pointing that one out. You can see they have to try and play around their strong point on this bottom side. Aranchi is still incredibly massive in this game, 3.5 completed items. But even then, you know, if you're just getting locked down by this Maokai, this Zac, over and over again, it's so difficult to even find a semblance of a team fight. And it's difficult for WFU to team fight in general just because of how strong they're just all good in very isolated fights. They're good at assassinating one person. They're not good when there's a big Darius and Maokai in front of you. They're very much geared towards one type of fight, which is looking for those picks.
GVSU, they are here first in the river. Now, it is a 5-man stack here for WFU, so they have got all of their members here to contest for this dragon. Aranchi is wrapping around. There is no vision that's spotting him just yet. Control Ward's going to miss out. He's going to be spotted now, though, so they know that the Aatrox is behind them. Zed's going to get spotted as well, so they know these two flanking members are here. It looked like they want to disengage, but it's going to be Riven going in first. Toon World going to be happy to fight this one now. It's going to be who's going to be the first to drop? There's going to be stunned on multiple people coming into the back line. And now what else can they do, though? Breakbone not going to drop just yet, but Young Earth going to get the damage. It's a double kill. And now he's looking to get everything. He's not being stopped. He might just get the triple. He's going into the stasis. He gets out. And now what else can he do? It's going to be the ult reset. He's underneath the turret. It's a quadra kill, but he's going to drop, though. The intro won't be the Penta, but that will be the team fight win. Knock up underneath the turret for level 16 Riven. And he should be dropping as well, though. But Aatrox should be strong enough to secure this one. It's going to be the Zed pushing in the top lane. They win the team fight and they get the drag, and they're actually going to get their first inhibitor of the game.
Yeah, and Nerium just on that split push the entire time. It was effectively a 4v5 fight, and amazing play coming through from Young Earth to be able to find all those kills. Nerium, though, got to be careful.
Should be able to get out and manage to live. Obviously, no ultimate available for Stepfather, so wasn't scary, but he may not have known that. So, yeah, doesn't end up getting the inhibitor in the end, but Palm Tree is shoving in the mid lane.
Just consistently pushing on these lanes, and I mean, you pick up another dragon in favor of Wake Forest, preventing that soul from going down, and it was only stopped by Rework Syndra. Realistically, the execute coming through onto Young Earth prevented them from healing through it. But overall, it's just been a really, really good game coming through, not only from Palm Tree, who sort of got them through that early game, but now coming through from Young Earth, who's going to be such a menace now to deal with. You know, you don't really have as much defensive stats on this Maokai and Zac as you wanted to. I alluded to the fact that, you know, they're not great in those team fights unless... That's the point we never got to in that fight before it sort of broke out. Unless Young Earth is able to reset all over them, drop a bunch of Death Blossoms, and Cries a Devil May, but nonetheless, now over to this Baron they go. Wake Forest, they're just slapping him with his wallets at this point.
Toon Forest does not have teleport, so he's going to have to walk the long way up here. So this is where the instance where that might matter. Nerium's going in onto the Maokai, not necessarily the best champion. And now Abysmal going to be walking into 4 members. Can he do enough damage, though? Going to be the culling into multiple members, but it's going to be Aatrox getting their shutdown. And now it's just not enough. GVSU, they took a fight that they couldn't win. They tried to stop Baron, and now they're going to lose the game for it. It's a triple kill for Young. He gets the ace, and now this will be just the first game going over to WFU.
Yeah, with respawn timers coming up, you know, 30 seconds down the line, it's more than enough time for this team to sort of push through and end the game. Minion wave going to be a little bit lagging behind, but nonetheless, you've got enough damage to end this one. And against all odds, I want to say, or against most odds, I think Wake Forest able to sort of pull this one out. You know, it had a harder to execute comp, but nonetheless, it seemed as if GVSU were playing with their food, playing with their comp a little bit too much, and Wake Forest, they're going to be very happy with the fact that they're able to escape that with the Game 1 victory.
Expectations be damned. They're going to pick up this first win of the series. WFU advanced to 1-0, second game. Going to be very, very important with this one at the end of this. Yeah, and expectations, we were talking about what we set out for this team to do, and they absolutely played to their win conditions. GVSU, you know, you highlighted just running into WFU in the ways that they weren't supposed to, and they end up getting punished over and over and over again in these team fights.
Yeah, I think just a little bit of an overextension of expectations from the side of GVSU in the sense that every single fight that they were taking, it seemed as if they thought they were even in gold. They thought that they were, ahead in that sense. It's that copy pasta about MLXG from before. It's like, when they're even on gold, he feels like he needs to get a lead, so they go for a fight. When they're down by 3,000 gold, he thinks that they're even on gold again, so he looks for a fight. When they're down 8,000 gold, he thinks the game's out of control, so they look for a fight. It's just always looking for these fights from the side of GVSU, and it doesn't really work out in their favor at the end of it, and they take a bunch of sort of ill-advised fights, giving over inhibitors around that dragon where the quadra kill for Young. And at the end of it, it just seemed as if they didn't really have decisive decision making there in Wake Forest. They're really able to abuse that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the expectations that they've met too, now they have, some threat in the draft lane when we get ready to go in this second game. So very happy to see them answer some of the questions that we've had. Very interesting to see them pull off that draft. We were talking about some of the excitement with the Assassins, so interested to see if they'll get that in game 2. But the only way to find out if they get that into game 2 is to stick around. So don't go anywhere because game 2 is coming right up.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Palm Tree is here, so it is a 3v2 of a Stigma. Not going to have any kind of ability to get out of this one, so should just be dropping. Can they survive on his passive, though? No teleport to save him, so exactly what we're talking about later, but he's not going to be able to respond. The Smite's going to get it, and now League of Trees may be in a little bit of trouble himself. Knockback, and it's a double kill. Young Earth going to be very happy to get that one. Sorry. 2 kills going over. Breakbone manages to trade onto Riven.
Doing a really good job in this early stage just to put the pressure on at the very least.
Nerium going to be ulting, step underneath the turret. This will be the confirmed kill. The execution's not going to come through, though. Nerium's going to get out. Nice. More than happy to just kind of play this late game and wait for their carries to get strong. But Toon World stepping forward here. It's going to be the World Interpops. Therefore, Orange, but Toon World's bitten off a little bit more than he could chew, and Nerium's going to pick up his second kill of the game. Alongside this Rift. It's going to be Scout of the Week thrown into him. It's going to be the jump in from Stigma. Can they manage to win this fight, though? A couple of ultimates already lost here for the side of WFU. Is Nerium trying to knock down Zach? Not going to be able to do so, though. Team fight broken out so far. League of Trees just trying to buy as much time as he can. Low health bars for WFU. What else can GVSU get? It's going to be the kill on top of the Alistair. Now they're going to try and see if they can get out, though. They've gotten one, but it's going to be a shutdown given over. But it will be traded back instantly by 2. Orochi picks up 1, and so does Palm Tree. And now Stepfather just trying to run for the hills, trying to make sure he doesn't get stunned out. Let this go at all. GVSU really want to fight for the soul because they know they're starting to lose a little bit of pressure in this game. They know that Palm Tree isn't up, so this actually should just be free for them so long as they don't get the Dragon too low. But it's going to be the full team fight start. It's going to be the Zonias coming out there, but it's not going to be enough to save them, though, because Young Earth's going to get the ultimate, and now it's low health bars in WFU. They're more than happy to take that trade. We don't have to worry about you taking the Dragon if your jungler's dead, and now it's just free. Stigma gonna get jumped on by Nerium, trying to get over the wall. Ult's not gonna kill in the end. Now they're just gonna take a slow team fight underneath this mid lane turret. Orange's gonna be on the back. He's gonna try and lock down multiple members. They're trying to jump on top of him, but it doesn't matter because Young Earth's gonna slay him, and now they're just gonna lock down this mid lane turret. Zed's gonna get spotted as well, so they know these 2 flanking members are here. It looked like they want to disengage, but it's going to be Riven going in first. Toon World going to be happy to fight this one now. It's going to be who's going to be the first to drop. There's going to be stunned on multiple people coming into the back line. And now what else can they do, though? Breakbone not going to drop just yet, but Young Earth going to get the damage. It's a double kill. And now he's looking to get everything. He's not being stopped. He might just get the triple. He's going into the stasis. He gets out. And now what else can he do? It's going to be the ult reset. He's underneath the turret. It's a quadra kill, but he's going to drop, though. The intro won't be the Penta, but that will be the team fight win. Knock up underneath the turret for level 16 Riven. And he should be dropping as well, though. But Aatrox should be strong. Miriam's going in onto the Maokai, not necessarily the best champion. Now Abysmal going to be walking into 4 members. Can he do enough damage, though? Going to be the culling into multiple members, but it's going to be Aatrox getting their shutdown, and now it's just not enough. GVSU, they took a fight that they couldn't win. They tried to stop Baron, and now they're going to lose the game for it. It's a triple kill for Young. He gets the
GVSU were playing with their food, playing with their comp a little bit too much, and Wake Forest, they're going to be very happy with the fact that they're able to escape that with the game 1 victory.
I can't say that. I'll get in trouble. There's one for each game, so teams this weekend, somebody's going to have to explain to TSA why they're coming home with an extra trophy. We're fine. This is going to be great. Why is everybody staring at me? I'm not even doing anything yet. Is it because I'm in a suit? It looks nice. It's new. I'm stressing. It's all right. We win these. We absolutely win these. I've never seen us lose these. I love him. I don't remember his name. What is going on, everybody? And oh, we're ready? I'll start over. Okay. What's going on, everybody? We are here at the Collegiate Esport Commissioners Cup 2022 in Atlanta, Georgia. The players are just now entering the arena for day 1. A lot of them had the opportunity to be here yesterday to get jerseys, to get familiar with the area, and to get to know one another. But today, the friendly gloves have to come off, and they are all here. Earlier, I was talking to these guys. This mannequin, when they didn't have anything else set up, I could see it from all the way down there, and I thought it was a person. And I stood there for like 5 minutes, and I was like, why is he standing like that? And I thought it was like a smooth criminal. I thought somebody was giving us like a Michael Jackson impression, and then it was a mannequin. I was really embarrassed to admit that. Oh my God, that's a lot lot of people. Hold on, let's go over this window. Let's go over this window. It just keeps going. There's so many people outside. There are so many people outside. We're gonna interview people when they come in. I don't really want to go outside. It looks like it's gonna rain, and this suit is new. So, oh, there's Doc Haskell. Hi, Doc. How are you? He brings a full notebook with him and like writes notes down. It was pretty insane. He had it yesterday. He's gonna be coming through this metal detector right here. I don't know his name though, but I recognize his hair.
Jen.
You're Jen. All right, we're gonna interview Jen, who's supporting Kennesaw. I'm gonna ask you like a couple of very simple questions. Okay. Are we ready? All right, great. College. I really like Georgia College's color scheme. It's just red, white, and blue, I think, but I think they did it in a really clever way. Mineral area wearing hoodies, even though it is 75 degrees outside here in Atlanta, Georgia. Absolute legends.
If only Nick could hear you. Nick, come back.
If he's over 100 feet away, he can't.
You were whispering something, and he started smiling. I'm like, are you whispering?
Oh yeah, because he's got his headphone in if we're close enough. But
Bless you.
Gesundheit. Gesundheit again. You're welcome. I'm gonna go find him. Oh, there he is. Oh my. Oh, okay. Real stuff is starting. Real stuff. Competitive integrity needs to be upheld. We gotta get out of here. Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble. I get really embarrassed when I get yelled at.
30 is what we're gonna do.
Okay. Wow, it's not 10:30 yet.
It's only like barely 10.
Woo! All right, it's gonna be a long. Hey, what's up? Surprise interview. Join me over here though, so we have a cool backdrop. What are we here for?
Rocket League.
Awesome. I'm not going to ask what school you go to because unless you swapped hoodies, that seems pretty clear.
Nope. You know, I got my jersey on with my name on it.
Oh, you do? Show us your jersey. Look at John T. Turbo here.
Yeah,
That's not his name. I just keep calling him that.
Yeah.
His name is John, but
my name is John Turbesi.
Yeah,
That's
not John T. Turbo.
Yeah, I get the message that I'm going to Nebraska where I met you.
Oh, that's so crazy. So context, if we're probably not going to use this, but I want to talk about it. Turbo and I met at a LAN like over a year ago. That's so crazy. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Collegiate Esports Commissioner's Cup. I am Sebdolence, joined by a man I have interviewed probably well over 10 times. It's going to be my good friend Neb here from Bay State Overwatch team. Neb looked at me before he started his last series, and he said, "We are not dropping a map for the rest of the day." And so far, he has lived up to that title. But Neb, is there anybody you're thinking, we've got to get them out of the way, we've got to take them down?
No.
No? Just looking at it, each fight's its own, every game, going into it, just taking it as it comes?
I have the confidence right now that we're not going to drop a single map.
I love Neb because not only is he confident, but he's correct. Bay State is one of the best Overwatch teams I've ever seen. So it's always good to hear from. I love the confidence, and I love Bay State, so I hope they do a great job this weekend. So what qualifier, did you win a qualifier to get here?
At-large bid.
We're looking at Rocket League, we're thinking high odds.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the cast. I am still Horizon. This is still Adam, and we are getting ready to get into the second game. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about the first game that we saw because there are a lot of takeaways for both GVSU and for WFU coming out of the end of that last game.
Yeah, definitely an interesting game to say the least. We saw a lot of what we weren't expecting to come through from Wake Forest in the most positive way possible, and a lot of what we weren't expecting to see out of GVSU in a slightly more less positive way, we'll put it that way, to prevent the flame. But overall, it was just a little bit of an interesting situation where GVSU, they had their win conditions and they didn't really play around them. This Lucian was incredibly strong throughout the mid game, and it just seemed as if they let the Lucian do whatever. They didn't really want to play around it, and I think especially those back-to-back-to-back, I think it was 3 fights in a row around that Dragon where Wake Forest just came around with a victory every single time, really broke the spirits of GVSU in that sense. And unfortunately for Grand Valley, their gold lead effectively became a Grand Valley and they weren't able to overcome it.
Don't call it a valley, it's a chasm. I mean, you're absolutely right, highlighting a lot of those fights that they ended up taking. And I think most importantly, GVSU not playing to their strengths as the team fighting composition that they had, but rather they were getting caught in some of these individual engagements. And one of the things that we highlighted at the end of that first game was Toonworld getting caught a lot in a solo lane by himself, getting punished multiple times by multiple members of WFU who were really able to keep the Darius down. Yes, had a couple of instances where it looked like he was going to come back in, but ultimately that Darius got hugely punished.
I think the Darius, we got first blood, and that was also a point of contention that they could have played around, and it just sort of overextended multiple times. Didn't really get the resources that I think we were expecting them to. So very curious to see what changes up in the draft, if Grand Valley potentially are going to take away some things on red side that they left up on blue side. Of course, sides are going to swap, and this sort of brings into question the draft theory of these two teams. What does Grand Valley really accomplish picking the red side this time around?
Yeah, the other thing that's going to be the important to highlight too is they're going to have that final pick, so they will be able to save counter for a potential matchup that they want to get the better of. But the question is, does that go mid lane or top lane? Do you give Toonworld the ability to kind of counter pick after that first performance? Do you have the confidence that he can pilot a counter pick, or do you maybe set up Stepfather to get something that they want and then try and win the game off that? We'll have to see. Is Set and Aatrox going to be picked off the board there? So yeah, they definitely want to deny that first pick away from Aranchi. Had a pretty good game, I'd say, on the Aatrox. So will not be wanting to get that over. And then Zed also going to hit the ban board. So I think a situational ban away from Miriam. They don't want to see that champion again.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what ends up developing as well in this draft. I mean, they blind picked Echo last game. They're perfectly fine picking that again, it seems like, for Palm Tree. So no real surprise there. I think if anything, you would have taken that set ban and just said, hey, the Echo was a pretty big problem as well. We just want to take away what beat us last game. But we'll have to see if they have a better answer into it, because it seemed like League of Trees just seemed a little bit lost on the Maokai in that sense, which is odd because, as we said, League of Trees, you hope that they're pretty good at the tree in that sense, but I think just wasn't really able to get tanky enough, wasn't really to have the same impact that we've seen out of Maokai's from Worlds. But that's a switch up for sure.
That's a switch up.
Gonna be, that's an interesting one. She just got nerfed as well, so
Yeah. I think maybe they're trying to look for some of the more individual play that some of the Rek'Sai can't set up on some of potential picks that they might go with later. Obviously, traversing around the map is going to be nice, so you will be able to answer the Echo in that sense. And then obviously her ultimate is still pretty good when you're trying to lock down a single target. So if you are trying to lock down Young Earth or potentially Miriam, if you can deny them an assassin, then that sets you up for success. But I think the nerfs, probably would have been enough to dissuade a lot of other teams. So interesting to see what Grand Valley have in terms of strategy to compare with this pick.
Yeah, to sort of bring this back into their wheelhouse a little bit more, and especially with this Caitlyn pick, you have a little bit of extra mobility and self peel. When you think about the 90 caliber net, you think about your traps, you have a lot of ways to sort of trap Echo in their own skin in a lot of ways, and I think especially you can force out the chrono break a lot from the Echo with the Rek'Sai ultimate. So if you put the trap down in the right place on the Shadow, you might be able to catch the Echo off guard a little bit. There are some cheeky plays that you can accomplish with this Caitlyn. Whether they execute on that or not is the real question, but of course this Alistar was extremely good from level 16 Riven, and I'm curious to see how this Samir works out, because it's a little bit more of a difficult lane into the as they switch it up.
I like that a lot better.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The Twitch makes a little bit more sense, especially paired with the Alistar, so the diving is a lot easier, and then obviously the team fighting is going to be even easier with that. I do like the safety drafted, however, for Grand Valley, pairing that with the Caitlyn, so I think it's a decent answer into what Alistar and Twitch want to do, especially because you can flay the Alistar out of the headbutt pulverize, buying safety for that Caitlyn, who can play around the range, but you're trading that for some of the team fight capability, and Twitch, this is a character that is fairly strong, but we don't see a lot of just because it kind of flies under the radar a little bit.
Well, yeah, they're sneaky, they're just stealthing around, and all of a sudden they pop out of there and like, oh, wait, this champion is actually kind of broken in that own right. But yeah, I think especially with that Samira hover, I was a little bit worried just because you really struggle in the lane against the likes of a Caitlyn. This time around, though, the Twitch has a little bit more range afforded for themselves. They have, some cheese potential with the stealth and everything. You can just have the Alistar sort of solo engage, and you start asking questions. Why is he engaging it? Oh, there's the Twitch. They're already behind us. They're in our walls and all that stuff. So curious to see how Young Earth plays that one out. Of course, their early game, a little bit weaker than the side of Breakbone Branch. So when you flip it around, we'll have to see how the Caitlyn interacts with that, because Caitlyn, one of those early game and late game champions, mid game, they're sort of a trough. But I like to see the bans come through. They are still scared of Toon World's Darius. They don't want to give that over for free. So it's that Father pulling out the Talia. This would be pretty interesting because it tells us that they're really trying to play for those side lanes a little bit more. Of course, a little bit left until it gets locked in. It's locked, so gotta be playing for those side lanes.
I think compositionally that makes sense, which signals to me that they definitely want to make sure that Toon World has a good game, so they're going to give him the priority pick on whatever he wants to get and then try and enable him in that side lane, look to gank, look to get out, and then get early neutral objective pressure, which you can get with the Talia wall. It's not a combat ultimate by any stretch of the imagination, so it's not going to do a tremendous amount of damage, but it is going to set you up to make plays for some of those neutral objectives and lock down certain players on the side of Wake Forest in order to make sure that you get kills. The Mordekaiser, I really like this pick, and I'll get to why as soon as they lock in their last pick, because this Mordekaiser is going to be interesting depending on what Grand Valley picks, but the safety in this champion cannot be understated.
Of course, and I think the biggest thing about Mordekaiser as well is, especially if you're blind picking a top laner, Mordekaiser does a lot of things. It can be a tank, it can be an AP threat, it can be sort of a bruiser in that regard, it can be a split push threat as well. There's a lot of things that Mordekaiser does well. It does well when you group around objectives because you can just send Toon World down to the death realm, especially now that you've got this Gangplank drafted up for you. I believe this is going to be a Gangplank mid lane, reason being that it matches Talia's roams. You're able to just sit mid lane, clear out waves permanently. You're able to match the wave clear that the Talia is able to put out once you get a couple of items under your belt. You sort of have the same sort of gradual curve into the game as the Talia as well. And if Talia wants to ult bot lane, you just ult bot lane and yours does more damage than her ultimate technically. You just drop that on top of them, and the Talia really has to question where they're roaming, when they're roaming, and all of that. They need to play around this Gangplank ultimate because it can be changing the fight so much. Of course, the Olaf coming through makes a lot of sense into the likes of a Mordekaiser, because you can avoid getting ulted. You just press your ultimate yourself and you negate what the Mordekaiser is able to do. So I like this counter pick coming through from Toon World. Once again, it's very aggressive, definitely needs some resources, so we'll have to see if League of Trees wants to play around that lane a little bit more.
Yeah, this is definitely a champion that when we see it in the top lane, it is a little bit difficult to execute sometimes because it doesn't get the attention. So it does necessitate a jungler coming up there and helping you. Interesting, though, interaction that's going to be happening with the Rek'Sai and with the Olaf is that every time you try and gank this champion, if it's a one-on-one, it should just be Olaf. It should be fine because he can just negate the CC with his ultimate. However, if they bring Toon World up there, that's where things actually get difficult, because then Aranji can just ultimate the Rek'Sai and not have to worry about it. You can lock that jungler in a 1v1 and you can buy time to escape, and you can actually wait out the Olaf ultimate if he doesn't save it for when you come out of the Death Realm. So in this particular instance, it's in a weird foot on the gas and the brakes at the same time, because you want to give Olaf additional help in that top lane to make sure that he gets ahead, but you can't bring a jungler up there without giving Young additional safety to get out of any potential engages. So interesting to see how Grand Valley is going to try and play around that dynamic.
I think that especially when we look at how Wake Forest played that last game, and they really played for a lot of those fights, Olaf sort of fits into a style where you can fight back. And I think even when you don't get as many resources, or if you get even a little bit more resources than you got in that game one where they got, none basically, you can really perform against the likes of a Mordekaiser. You have sort of more outplay potential with this Olaf, where you're just able to sort of run at them and gun them down. Yes, it's outplay in quotes as that, but you have enough damage, you have
big
enough
old
in your
air
kit.
quotes.
Yeah, you can just run at them and you can try and kill them that way. But at the same time, I don't know, Wake Forest's draft looked a little bit cleaner this time around. It doesn't seem as solo queue-esque in that way. You've got this Echo, of course, still that's a little bit off the wall, but I mean, Palm Tree looked really good on that last game as well. This Gangplank in the mid lane, if that is the option for Narium Oleander, is going to be really interesting as well, because I think the Gangplank does offer you very similar things to Talia, just on the different end of the damage spectrum, and of course you want to solidify your magic damage with the Mordekaiser on the top lane. Granted, Grand Valley has this Caitlyn, which is so strong with a lot of these sort of crowd control supports, the Thresh included, where you can flay people into the traps, you can hook them into the traps and all of that. And Twitch is going to be a champion that struggles until level 6, I believe, in this lane. The Alistar can't really do that much in the early game, especially into the likes of a Thresh. So I think Grand Valley has set themselves up for success through that bot lane. It's just, are they going to play around Breakbone Branch this time around to make sure that that lead actually means something, or are Wake Forest just going to be able to make the map as chaotic as possible and find a victory for themselves again? It's difficult to say. I don't really know, especially after last game where I was definitely wrong on my predictions.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you're looking at too is possibly one of the scaling aspects when you're looking at Wake Forest. You definitely have to favor the Mordekaiser and the Gangplank in that you reach a point where one barrel chain will essentially annihilate every squishy on the side of Grand Valley if they get caught in any kind of situation where they don't have vision. And then you'll end up seeing a lot of these squishies drop very, very quickly. The other thing that I'm concerned about from Grand Valley, and this is somewhat echoed on the side of Wake Forest, but I think it's a different situation for them, and I'll explain, is that Grand Valley does not have a ton of reliable CC, right? So they have a lot of kiting potential. They have a lot of ability to sort of run at people, but when you're looking at set piece CC capability, you're super reliant on SSJ Stepfather landing the toss back. You're super reliant on Abystigma landing hooks, getting flays, and if you don't do that, then it's really, really difficult for you to start a fight short of walling a couple people off and then having Toon World just run at people. Whereas if you look on the side of Wake Forest, they actually have some solid CC capabilities. Obviously, the biggest one is Ranchi, who can just turn a 5v5 and ult someone super important. You go, hey, you're in here for a little while. We're just going to sit here and time out. Oh, by the way, I'm going to keep whacking you on the head with a hammer while I'm burning you to death to see, what happens. So, and then obviously, Alistar, very easy engage, can flash, headbutt, pulverize. So some tools there that I think are a little bit more reliable. Obviously, we'll have to see how Grand Valley plays around that. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this, though, by the way, for some of these squishies, is the necessitating of QSS, because this is always something we hear a lot about when we talk about build pathing, and that's that no one on Grand Valley actually builds this item efficiently. So I'm curious to get your thoughts about how QSS is actually going to affect this game when you're looking at SSJ Stepfather and Breakbone trying to not get pulled into that death realm by Oranchi.
Yeah, so I think the main thing to keep in mind is just, if SSJ Stepfather believes that they are the better player, they don't need QSS in this phase. Where they can just shove the Mordekaiser back, they can keep themselves off. You can get that extra movement speed next to a wall if possible. There are ways around it for this Talia to be able to survive in the Death Realm. I think it definitely is necessary out of the Caitlyn. The main person that I think needs it is League of Trees here. The main thing that Mordekaiser has sort of accomplished for itself as why it becomes this meta pick in a lot of cases is you take the jungler out of objectives, you take them away from these fights, you take them out of the smite fight, and a lot of the times there's now a case in higher levels where the Mordekaiser will ult the jungler as late as possible to prevent the QSS smite right out of the realm to be coming through. So I think it definitely is necessary for League of Trees to buy a QSS just to avoid that situation, and just so it works once, and then after that, you know, Mordekaiser will be like, okay, I actually need to kill this guy before we throw him into the death realm or something like that. So it's definitely necessary, and I think when you look at the rest of the comp, it's just, it feels so bad to build QSS this game though, because it is Mordekaiser and maybe the Echo Stun every once in a while. There's really nothing else to QSS, so it sucks that you have to build it, but of course with the Mordekaiser, I think it's definitely necessary on League of Trees as well as Breakbone Branch, just so that they can survive and have a chance to win these fights.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the difficulties that you run into with the Mordekaisers. If he does get kills, you're kind of playing this very, very thin line. You know, there's this razor edge where you're like, I really don't want to build this item. I'm hoping that we can just outplay this champion. He doesn't become strong. But then the minute he gets a couple of kills, then you're like, oh, now I have to build this item now. I didn't want to. And the thing that's most painful is that there's really no item that it builds into efficiently that enables any of these champions that Orange is going to be targeting. It doesn't provide any really extra damage. Yeah, you can build the spiky, you know, maul looking thing. I keep forgetting what its name is. You can build that, but it doesn't work with any of your builds. And you're Caitlyn, it's just going to be a QSS sitting in your inventory, and so you're really just trying to play around, hoping that this champion doesn't, really have the chance to come online. But if it does, it's going to necessitate that 1,300 gold investment that really is going to slow down a lot of the builds for these carry members on the side of Grand Valley.
It's going to be incredibly curious to see how they play it out in that sense as well, in terms of when they build it. That's another thing to keep in mind is, you say you don't need the QSS until you need the QSS, and it's usually when you're in the death realm and you're getting bonked to death that you say, yeah,
if I had just bought QSS, I would not be suffering in this way. I would just walk away. And then Mordekaiser's like, should have bought QSS.
Yeah, and at the same time, on the flip side, if you buy the QSS too early and the Mordekaiser's just like, you don't do any damage, I'm not going to ult you. I don't really care what you do. Exactly. There's sort of this dichotomy when it comes to, Malzahar, Mordekaiser, any of these champions that sort of facilitate QSS that, if you buy it, you're kind of screwed because your build is behind. If you don't buy it, then you're kind of screwed because you're stuck for 2.5, 3 seconds. In the case of Mordekaiser, ultimately like 6 seconds out of the fight. So it's just a really interesting situation in that regard. When to build it, I don't think it's ever going to get perfected. I think no matter what, it's going to be like one of those circles where one bad outcome, you get the other one. Oh, another bad outcome. Oh, you get the other bad outcome. It just doesn't really happen in any good way. So it's a tale of two evils, and it's really just which one you would rather do. Of course, if Breakbone Branch is fed enough, they don't care if they build the QSS because they're fed enough that losing 1,300 gold to that isn't as big of a deal. I think no matter what, the Rek'Sai will care that they have to buy it, but I think once again it is absolutely necessary on the jungler.
Want to get your final thoughts about this draft before we get into the game as we get the last couple seconds, just the expectations for both these teams.
I think that what Wake Forest did in game one was really good. They played towards their win conditions, sort of the monkey go all in style, and it worked really well for them. This time around, it's a little bit more of a refined comp, but still sort of the same energy in that regard, where a Palm Tree is just going to have to try and go in and find as much as possible. Young are going to open DPS on the backline and try and deal as much damage in that sense as well. On the flip side, though, GVSU, they really need to solidify what their win conditions are once again. I think Breakbone Branch is a huge example of that. And when you're playing a Talia, you're playing a Rek'Sai, it's all sort of facilitating towards this bottom lane in a lot of ways. So I think that getting Breakbone Branch as fed as possible and actually playing around them properly is going to be absolutely pivotal to their success if they want to push this to a game 3.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, you have heard it here first. The expectations that we have for both these teams, obviously, it is going to be WFU sitting on this first win, so now all they need to do is close it out. But for GVSU, you're looking to reset, looking to buy a little time and use your comp to the max effectiveness and hopefully beat out WFU to get into the second game. So go ahead and spam chat for those of you that are watching who you think is going to win this game, because we are getting ready to load onto the Rift for game number 2. And I'm hoping for a best of 3, hoping that we actually get to see it, but that is going to have to be decided later because we are on to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for game number 2. And it should just be the 5-point start here, I think, from both of these teams, Adams.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like there's going to be too much of a invade possibility. Contrary to popular belief, Thresh is terrible in invades just because you either get the hook or the play. You don't get either. You don't, like, the hook isn't a blitzcrank hook. You don't pull them all the way back. You have to go to
someone
them, right?
to say it. Thank you for all you people out there solo queue. Thresh is not an invade champion, so if you see someone lock in Thresh and then another guy says, hey, let's invade, you just bop him. No, he's not an invade champion.
I mean, of course, if you're able to if you stack 5 people onto one person, it's not really the fact that you have Thresh. It's just the fact that you have crowd control. In which case, pick anyone else that has it. But without making chat too mad about that one, or without making the entire league community too mad about that, I think overall there's definitely some strong points for the sides of both of these teams in the early game. I want to see what the Rek'Sai does, because last game we saw League of Trees just sort of farm out to level 4 and then look for some plays around the map. Rek'Sai is a champion that can level 2 gank, can level 3 gank. We'll have to see if they want to up that tempo, try and look for a play like that. Starting on the bot side might mean something if they do blue, Gromp, red, and go top lane. They do have an opening onto Aranchi where Palm Tree won't really be able to respond to that. So curious to see what League of Trees does with their pathing to sort of push that advantage early on.
Yeah, having that early access to the map and making sure that pressure is applied very early, I think is going to be very important for League of Trees, as you've highlighted. The other thing, too, that we noticed in the last game was just how long it actually took League of Trees to have it. Oh, no! Oh, no! Young Earth just got the red buff. That is actually terrible. Oh, you hate to have that for Palm Tree. Now, this is going to have to be a lot of information is going to be given over to League Chip, because they're going to see that Young Earth has that red buff. Yes, it's going to be nice to trade in the lane, but now they know that the Echo does not have level 2, so this just should be the early pressure going straight to GVSU in the ganking of these lanes.
And on Echo, you can solo Raptors if you have Q. And as our observer has pointed out there, that's not the Q that the Echo leveled up there. Is able to complete them, but not going to be very healthy at that. Force to smite, force to burn a lot. This Echo's just in trouble. Oh no, not this too.
He's going to land the hook, throws the flay back, but in the wrong direction now, as Pistol is caught on the wrong side of that one, as Breakbone got headbutt pulverized out of the way, but ultimately just going to trade a little bit of health bar. And Young Earth obviously having access to that red buff will mean that he can trade pretty efficiently in that lane. But yeah, this is a disastrous start for WFU. No. That is definitely not what you want. Palm Tree already struggling just to clear the wolves. So this should just be absolutely free ganking timers on League of Trees.
Yeah, it's a level 3 gank timer that we were expecting. Might be going towards mid lane, might be going towards bot lane. League of Trees actually walking into the jungle even. Oh my, Narium.
Could be the knockback, but not enough to pull an Arium within. Oh, League of Trees, he might want to contest this. He's going to know that there's no red buff access, so this will be a slow take. Does he see it at a time? He's going to get the knockup, but this should just be the first kill going over. Gets the smite, first blood! Oh, you love to see it. League of Trees exactly on the timer that we talked about. He gets the buff, he gets the kill, he gets the gold, and now he's going to get free access to go on the map wherever he wants, and he's even looking at Aranchi right now.
And it's just so predictable. Oh my.
He's going to eat a turret shot, but Aranchi, there should be no way to go. Going to be the flash knockup. Toonwell's going to make sure that he gets that one, and he gets out with his life. 2 early kills to GVSU, and they are super happy with the way this game is going.
Exactly to the win condition. I mean, they quite literally, League of Trees did exactly what we said they would do. Blue, Gromp, red, look for a gank. Didn't quite find it in mid lane because there was enough health on Narium. Goes into the jungle after seeing the red buff stolen. Bam, find your first kill. Go top lane, go with the dive with the wave stacked up on Toon World. Kill Aranchi, bam, second kill. And now this Rek'Sai is off to the races. Now has a little bit more of a win condition. And I didn't want to say it, but our producer
yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, I'm going to say it now because of that early play. Our producer has a streak of going to, game 3s and best of 3s map, or map 3s in Valorant, game 7 in Rocket League and everything for like a week and a half. Oh man, it's happening again.
Gonna be the knockup. He's gonna get the flash out, but he may not have the ability to live it here. Gets underneath the turret, but the knockup's made further. Oh! One more did it at SSJ Stepfather. He's gonna get a kill. Everyone gets a kill. Top, jungle, and mid. We're all celebrating. We've got our arms in the air like we just don't care. Oh, and League of Trees, he is absolutely making his presence felt in this game so far. GVSU, they have to be smiling ear to ear right now.
Like, 2/3 of the gold lead at this point is all on this Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai has double the Echo's gold. Of course, not completely the Echo's fault in that sense, just because of the red buff incident, as we'll call it. But still, it feels so bad for Palm Tree, who had such a good game 1, to get just... I mean, the term in TFT is mort dogged. I don't know what they really call it in League, but you're just so unlucky in that situation where you just miss out on so much of the map and you're not able to reply to these ganks. And now Palm Tree's just sitting mid lane to try and get level 4. They can't get any crabs. They can't get any of their camps because they're all in respawn timers.
Oh,
this Rek'Sai is almost a full level, might be 2 levels up at this point, and Palm Tree can't do anything.
He hasn't been spotted. He has not been spotted. They don't know that he's there, but he's not going to be caught in the lane right now. Nerium wrapping around. Rek'Sai just sitting as the Tremor Sin, so he knows when the Gangplank's going to walk across. He's in there. He doesn't want to sit here for too long, though. Doesn't want to give over too much time for Palm Tree to get back in this one. And as you highlighted, like having to sit there in the mid to absorb that experience is going to hurt both him and his mid laner. just in the time. But yeah, so I think great call by League. Just decides to call it off, says, I'm not going to gank this right now, and then go back to farming. But Adam, one thing I want to talk about right now, because obviously this is a really, really rough early game for WFU, is how do they slowly start to eat their way back into this? What adjustments can they make now that it's sort of calmed down and Palm Tree is starting to get his farm again? What can they do to eke their way slowly back into this game?
I mean, it's going to have to be in... They just need to play towards a little bit of their scaling in a sense. This time around, they actually do have some pretty good late game scaling. Rek'Sai is going to fall off as the game goes on. Twitch... Gangplank, very good later game champions. Aranchi needs to be careful and not die here. That's a way that they can get back in the game.
He has access to level 6, so he will just be locked to the 1v1 with League of Trees, but all League of Trees needs to do is buy time, slowly ticking. Aranchi's going to walk his way on out of there, and that's what we talked about in that pregame lobby where he can just ult the Rek'Sai and walk on out of there by time. So, but it ultimately will force that ability out of Aranchi, so that means that Toon World is just safe to continually shove this underneath the turret and contest Aranchi for any of the CS that he's going to want to get.
And I think that League of Trees, especially with that gold lead that they've adopted themselves, should really look towards the QSS. Oh, great hook.
That was a Hex Tech flash into the hook, into the flay. Young Earth just trying to survive right now. Shadow, sorry, Brook and Branch going to go ahead and continue pounding the auto win. That was a flashy play, and ultimately it gets them into a bunch of damage. But most importantly, Young Earth doesn't blow any summers there.
Yeah, a little bit of a flashy play, a little bit of a hexy play. Oh my goodness, mid lane.
Nerium does not have access to the flash, but doesn't need to worry about it because, thankfully, League of Trees doesn't have access to ultimate, so he's going to get the damage and be forced to reset. And League of Trees might be looking to start the dragon here because they have the shove in the bot lane, and that is exactly what they will do.
Yeah, of course. Not enough damage quite yet on League of Trees. Going for the Prowler's Claw build, I believe, so they're going to be just looking to get that as soon as possible. That's really your power point is Rek'Sai, so you just need to keep looking for these ganks, keep looking to snowball your advantage because Rek'Sai is a champion that if you are behind, you are useless, you are not going to be strong, so going to just keep looking for those power points, at least for the side of GVSU. And for the side of Wake Forest, it's really just going to come down to Young Earth, just waiting for them to scale up. Granted, in this lane, Caitlyn already with a pretty massive advantage. You can see in terms of the item build that they went for. It is Berserker Greaves on both sides, plus the pickaxe now for Caitlyn. It is the Vamp Scepter on the other side, but keep in mind that this was Twitch starting with the longsword, so still just about, I'd say, 300 gold behind in terms of just the CS as well as the rest of the map pressure. It's just overall deficits across the map for the side of WFU, so they've just got to wait for their team to come online, wait for their champions to come online in that sense with their scaling.
And I think the other part that kind of burns about this too for WFU is the fact that they're going to have to continue to give up pressure around some of these neutral objectives. So obviously they can't look to even trade because Palm Tree is so behind, does now have access to the level 6. So can look to try and set up something, but only has the Hextech alternator. He's going to get spotted out here by the tunnel on the Rek'Sai. So Tremorson's obviously going to spot him as well. So not going to be able to gank anywhere, won't be able to affect mid lane or bot lane. The other thing that I kind of want to highlight too, when we were talking about that gold difference for the bot lane, is the fact that Young Earth even got the gold from the first red buff take. So the fact that he got that buff and the gold from it and then is still behind in the laning phase is actually a little bit concerning when you're talking about getting that late game scaling going for the side of WFU ADC.
And I think especially when you consider the fact that the Caitlyn could have just gotten bursted out in the early game with that red buff burn just consistently coming down alongside the Twitch poison, alongside the all-in potential. It just seemed like a little bit of a missed opportunity in that regard with the fact that, your Twitch had red buff, your Twitch had that extra damage over time and just didn't really take advantage of it. Yes, it is into a Caitlyn lane, which is notoriously difficult, but oh my, Toon World, not again.
He is going to die into this top lane. Won't have access to the ultimate, is not going to be able to make it out in time. And that was one of the concerns that we had, was kind of navigating that 1v1. This is Jay Stepfather, not going to be able to knock Oranchi any farther. Wants to try and finish this up, has the shield, gets the healing from it. Can he make his way out of here, though? Palm Tree going to try and walk back in, but these two are minus ultimates. Stepfather not really able to get any further trading. League of Trees is here, though. Tremorson's going to knock him back, too, as well, and that's going to be able to pick up his second kill of the game. Palm Tree going to fall, and now League of Trees should just be able to go ahead and start up this Herald.
And look at that. It's an early QSS buy from League of Trees. Of course, not being relevant there at all, but at the very least, it's just League of Trees knowing what their role is. Oh my.
He's not letting this go. He's not letting this go at all. He has access to the ultimate. Oh, he wasn't able to stop it. Does he commit? No, he's just going to walk out. Oh, that feels so bad if you're the Rek'Sai. You wanted to try and stop the back and potentially get him a little bit lower so you could guarantee the kill, but wasn't able to do so. So didn't take the risk and will just instead to opt to take Herald. The fight was there, but just wasn't able to execute.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. Just missed the Q at that sense. And if you get that, you have the execute damage even through the shield, I think, to be able to finish off the likes of Aranchi. unlucky, happens to the best of us, but of course we'll be able to get the consolation prize. Might not actually get the consolation prize of that Herald, as
League of Trees is stuck on the wrong side of this one. No, they started it up. Toon World is here, has access to the Q, or sorry, League of Trees has access to the QSS, so there shouldn't be anything they have to worry about getting stunned up because Oranchi's not here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the smite going down, and Palm Tree will be able to get it. They're gonna try to deny it from him though. They just want to make sure he doesn't pick it up. Now, what else can they get? Nerium's gonna pick it up at the end. It's gonna be the Rek'Sai ulti, and they're gonna kill him for it. They will get 2 kills, but they give over the Herald. And at WFU, actually, I'm not really sure if you're happy with that trade at all. Yes, you do get the Herald. Meanwhile, top lane, this trade has not gone on. Toon World lands the Undertow. Trying to get a couple of
going
bolts.
for it.
Or sorry, autos into it. One more hook. Sorry, Axe would do it. Gets the grab. Gets it underneath the turret. Last little bit of damage he needed, and Orochi drops. So they actually end up giving 3 kills to get the Herald. I'm sure it's nothing's worse. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, though, it's going to be Hook, Flay, Youngarf trying to survive. He gets rooted. He gets killed, and now this is just going to be the bot lane for GVSU popping off. Riven's forced to retreat, and they're going to be winning across the board. They get 4 kills in total. Yes, you give up the Herald, but you say, WFU, you can have it because we just got so much gold.
Yeah, Breakbone Branch doesn't burn any summoners there and is able to get like 3 or 4 headshots off in a row onto Young Earth there. Just really well played from Sigma to continue flaying, hooking them back into the traps to make sure that they were able to connect that combo. And honestly, GVSU look like a completely different team this time around. You can just see in the gold difference, 5,500 gold up at 12 minutes into this one. I think I've seen this one pretty recently. I don't know. Maybe there seems to be a Worlds game that went something similar to this in the early game, and it ended up like 26, 27 minutes. So, I mean, you're looking at a really strong early game coming through from GVSU and just keeping WFU from getting any sort of foothold on this game. Just look at the CS gaps. Top lane, mid lane, even in the jungle here. Palm Tree just not really able to get their foot off the ground. And, that QSS task that they had to pay doesn't matter because Rek'Sai's still ahead of the Echo, even with that tax paid.
And this is what we were highlighting early in that pregame log. We were talking about what they needed to do to make sure that the QSS tax didn't feel so bad. Rek'Sai going to be very, very happy. 3-0-3. Next Dragon is starting up. Right now, I think you just give this up. I think you look to try and make a Herald play somewhere across the map with Palm Tree. But they're not doing that right now. They want to try and contest for this one. But GVSU is just so strong right now. They do have the completed Noon Quiver there for the Caitlyn. It's not a completed item, but it's more damage than the Twitch is going to have. And the Dragon's going to reset. How much longer do they want to keep this leash? Palm Tree, when do you jump over? When do you try and make this play? Gonna jump over now. He's not gonna be able to get it. Rek'Sai secures it, and now he gets back over the wall. A decent attempt again. Doesn't lose his life for it, but now they're just gonna run mid lane. It seems like a little bit of a wasted play, though. They do get the turret in the end. And actually, sorry, it was Nerium that had the Herald. I didn't realize that. Oh, he's going to go into the stopwatch. That was the wrong time to do that one. He's surely going to die for his sins. They get the turret, but they lose a drag. They lose a kill. And GVSU, you're absolutely fine to sacrifice the first turret under that situation.
Not just one kill as well. Toon World gets a solo kill on the top side as well. Just
I
for
did
good
not
measure.
see that.
Neither did the camera at that point. It's just Toon World cleaning that one up. Sort of unlikely at all circumstances, but
gonna get all
overall,
this,
just GVSU. Yeah, just continuing the snowball. That's 1, 2, 3 plates probably getting picked up.
Does he get it? Does he get it? Yeah, he's gonna get it.
He's going to get that play, and then once the plates fall off, he just gets the full tower as well. That's how punishing solo kills can be against the likes of an Olaf. So, GVSU just all cylinders.
League of Trees got killed there. I'm thinking he was trying to protect Toon World from the potential roam. Knew that he might die there, and gives his life for his top leader. Says, hey, you know what, buddy? I'll take the L on this one. I'll die so you don't have to. But most important, it is going to be shutdown gold going over, which is definitely not what you want for GVSU. You want to make sure that you keep WFU out of this game as long as possible, and giving a couple hundred shutdown gold is definitely not the way to do that.
Especially over to the Twitch, because we said that the Twitch is sort of the win condition at all costs in this situation. Oleander there, got to be careful, but by the looks of it, you can just see that this Caitlyn Thresh combo has really worked well. 50 CS up on their opponents here. You can see the mid lane as well, a little bit of a CS lead for SSJ Stepfather, despite not really having the most agency in that game. But of course, it's in the mid lane. Just want to point out, Gangplank's a cheater. He's a swindler. He's a thief. He's a pirate. How is he up in gold?
It's just a GPM talent. Don't get mad at the man because he manufactures gold. No, but I am totally with you. The only reason I think that the Gangplank is in the state that he is right now, and mostly being able to keep up in terms of gold, is the fact that he can manufacture that. Because if he wasn't able to do that, this matchup in the mid lane would be actually that much worse. He is starting the Essence Reaver first, so won't have that mythic completed for a while. And I think that's actually a difficult spot to be in. Oh, Toon World. People see him, but they don't know where the rest of GVSU is at. They don't have vision. And Toon World's going to spot this. He's just going to walk away and give up the scuttle. Where is he? Yep, yeah, it's going to be the smite for Palm Tree. He didn't have to smite it, though. Toon World could have had it.
just making things as difficult as possible. But look at where the allocation of champions was during that. You know, everyone was on a reset, and Toon World was still causing them to sort of rethink their play, second guess if they really wanted to go for these plays. And very curious to see how the game sort of erupts from here. Of course, the difference in the jungle isn't as big just because of the QSS tax that was forced to be paid. And now Stigma
might be on the wrong end of this one. League of Trees is here, though. They might just be able to insta-kill the ADC, and that is exactly what they do. Abystigma ends up walking away with it. It's going to be the knock up there on top of Riven. Arachi is here, but do they favor this fight? Is the health bar starting to get a little bit low? Going to re-hook him again. It's going to be the Flay, but now this should just be the ultimate coming out, and now he's going to lock Abystigma into the death rope with him, but it's going to be the flash out, and now Arachi's going to have to find his way out. The rest of GVU has showed up, and they favor themselves in the fight. A hook almost lands back on top of Riven again. And meanwhile, Cestus J Stepfather still shoving the wave in the mid lane. WFU, they can't make the right call here. They don't know what they want to do. Do they want to defend the tower? Do they want to back? Barrel clears out the wave, so they should buy them a little bit of time. Abystigma flashes, doesn't get the hook, and so this should just be the reset for both teams.
Yeah, and of note, League of Trees actually didn't have their ultimate cooldown taken because of the kill that Stigma picked up, so they still had that available the entire time. It was just sort of waiting to see if they were willing to pull the trigger onto anyone, if they got anyone low enough. Not the case. Oh my.
Ranchi, you stepped in the part of the jungle that wasn't yours and you managed to live, but Palm Tree may die for your sins. As, nope, they actually managed to both get out. That's another hook! He just can't miss. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. And Breakbro, he still gets the kill on Aranchi. Can he survive this one? Flay to buy a little bit of time on Reveled Earth to create a little bit of extra distance. And Abystigma lands another hook. He forces out the orange from it, but he ends up getting Breakbone in the end. So yes, the Caitlyn does get punished for the overextension there a little bit, but not before they absolutely flex on WFU. They're on their own side of the map. That's only their third kill of the game, and they are really struggling to prevent GVSU from doing what they want.
Yeah, of course, at the end of that, it's a pretty significant kill actually to pick up. It's the Gangplank getting a shutdown onto the Caitlyn, of course, through the barrel combo, showing that Naramoliander, you know, they know what's up. And look at that gold difference in the mid lane now, up to 1,400 between the Gangplank and the Talia. And once again, Wake Forest just refusing to relent in this situation. Of course, there's still a very significant gold lead.
Turret, second tier. They're actually going to shove this out because they know that no one is really here to stop them. Where is the rest of WFU where this plate is going down? They can still get this. They ends up trading 1-for-1 right now. The Toon was taking away too much of that turret. League of Trees has to flash over. They will get the turret, but it's a 1-for-1. The goal is going to go fairly even, I think, after that play, or will actually be in GVSU's favor after that, but man, that was an interesting interaction there, given the fact that GP lived for so long, and Toon World was tanking all of that tower aggro.
Oh my. But a Stigma just doesn't give up. Look at Young Earth, though. He's here.
He's going to continue flaying. He's going to continue landing all the CC. There's going to be the ult back into the back of Palm Tree, just trying to survive right now. Young Earth on the complete wrong end of this one. Breakbone will die for the end. Stepfather can. They managed to get out. Aranchi doesn't want to step too far forward into Talia, as the Rek'Sai had reset, and ends up being another 1-for-1 trade. Palm Tree just barely living with a sliver of health, as they're going to get the crash down onto that third-tier top turret. Oh, no! Flashes.
Oh. TP coming in as well. This fight just doesn't end. What's going on here? Like, there's no one has any control. There's League of Trees is here as well, but Palm Tree's not around.
Ultimate.
Oh my goodness.
That's the shielding. GP ult's going to come down on top of it, though. League of Trees got into the wrong spot. Wasn't able to get to the Lantern. This is a split fight for a bunch of different reasons. It's going to be a Talia wall coming in. Hook misses, and Nerium's going to drop as well. And now Toon is going to be absolutely immune to everything. Arachi, he's trying to run. Get him off me! It tries to land a Barasmi in the wrong direction. One more auto would do it. And now level 16 Riven. He tried to save the Mord, but he only sacrifices his Rife. He's trying not to become a hamburger, but Toon World, he doesn't want to let him go. One more undertow would do it. He gets a triple kill. Add a burger to that happy meal, and he's going to go pick up the rest of this farm. GVSU, and one of the wildest fights I've ever seen, somehow come out ahead on that play.
It looked like it was over, then it wasn't over, and once again, it's very much similar to the back-to-back-to-back fights that Wake Forest won in Game 1, except GVSU this time, just slapping them with their wallets. This lead is massive. 20 minutes into this one, 9,000 gold. Doing math on cast is never a good idea, but yep, 9.2 thousand gold in the lead. And even though that Gangplank is ahead of the Talia somehow, some way, even though she's 4-0-4 with a shutdown, just look at how far ahead this Olaf is. Almost 5,000 gold up. The junglers, 3,000 gold separating them. Bot lane even, despite the Caitlyn getting shut down a couple of times in the Twitch, stealing red buff. We're going to keep saying it because it was such a pivotal moment in this game. Caitlyn's still up in this lead. And of course, Stigma just looks like a different beast on this Thresh, landing so many hooks, landing so many plays. It is absolutely...
Look at the level differential in that top lane between Toon World and Aranchi. It is 4 levels difference. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not understand how much extra damage that is effectively having a full extra item in levels, but your abilities, because they do so much damage. That Olaf is absolutely a monster right now. 6, 2, and 4, has the Trinity 4s, has the Maul of Mount Mortius, so he is not afraid of any of the damage that Aranchi's going to be throwing out. And this is what we talked about is Stigma. He's going to land a hook. He's going to be able to ult out on Palm Tree, but it's just going to be the ult follow-up. He saved it for the exact reason that we talked about. You could just wait for Echo to blow the ultimate, and they have no safety even on their side of the jungle. As if Stigma had hit that hook, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah, there is no safety in the jungle. There is no safety in this game for Wake Forest. The Forest was their friend last game, not so much this time around because it has woken up. And unfortunately, Grand Valley are the ones living in it. Good ultimate here from the Gangplank just to scout this out. I don't think they really care. Stigma sure doesn't, as they're just sort of tanking that all through. And there's no real way for them to steal this away. No smite available. Toon World just going to go for the fight anyways.
Aranchi was trying to get there, but Toon World made sure that he couldn't get access to anywhere near that Baron. Obviously, you don't want, even though it's only a level 11 Mordekaiser, you really don't want that guy landing into the middle of 4 potentially low health members, but the GP ulti didn't end up mattering all that much. They will just trade it for a tower in this bot lane. And exactly like you highlighted, GVSU are just so online this game. They have done everything that they needed to do. This Rek'Sai has been 100% online. Toon World having a much better game. And now WFU, you never want to call a game over before it's over, but it really feels like they need a miracle to get back in this one.
Yeah, 10,000 gold at 22 minutes. It's pretty ridiculous how far ahead they are, and that's even with a Gangplank on the enemy team who is just pilfering everyone for gold. Once again, though, that is your win condition if you're the side of Wake Forest. You have to play around this Gangplank. You have to look for these barrel chains because at 60% crit there, the Infinity Edge online, you're one-shotting people at a certain point here. I mean, SSJ Stepfather hasn't built up any armor, has felt, confident enough in their gameplay that they don't need the Zanyas. League of Trees has a Death's Dance, but even then, I don't know how much that saves you when Gangplank's ignoring armor. Then again,
you could just die underneath there. Armor may not matter if you're just dead. And speaking of dead, a lot of people are going to start to die on the start of WFU. Aranchi is here, is trying to do something. Palm Tree is going to end up back in the middle of a couple people. It's going to be League of Trees dying, even though he got into the ultimate. And now, what else can they do? This is starting to look not too bad for the side of WFU. What else can they get? Stigma lands another hook, but now Breakbone is here. It's going to be a couple more kills going down. It's going to be the bow forward, and now this will just be the turret dropping. It's going to be a full team fight ace for GVSU, and this will for sure be at least one inhibitor going down, as Toon World wasn't even there for that fight. He's pushing on to the Nexus turrets.
Yeah, he just found another solo kill off on his own. It's the story of this game where Toon World is in their own world. They're sort of doing as they please. That's a lot of damage from the tower, Stepfather.
Yep, this is Young Earth just trying to prevent or convince Breakbone to go away, but Breakbone's like, no, I live here now rent-free, and I'm going to start to break all your things inside your base, and there's really nothing you can do to stop me. Palm Tree just trying to poke Stepfather off, and yep, there's a lot of fires in this base, and WFU need more bodies to put them out.
Yeah, you need the fire extinguisher at this point. Call the fire department because it's not going away anytime soon. Might just be a case of, hey, call the insurance company because that's our base isn't respawning at this point. 24
State
minutes.
Farm, we need a new game.
It's really difficult for them to find any sort of footing in this game until he's 6-0-6. We talked about that one win condition, and while the Gangplank was able to find 2 more kills in that fight, and if we look over at the gold, it's probably still ahead of the Talia somehow, some way. Oh, there we go, yeah. Just GP things, 1,300 gold up on the enemy mid laner, who is 6-0-6, having a fantastic game. I should reiterate, but GVSU, they're too fed at this point, 14,000 gold up. Stigma misses their second hook of the game, I think, after
that's crazy. That's so unacceptable. That's find a new support. I can't believe he missed a second hook. Yeah, let's not pay attention to all the 100 hooks that he hit, though.
Exactly.
But I mean, you're highlighting it, though. You're kind of, I think, focusing on one of the reasons that I think people pick GP and what is the most important, which is that even when you are behind, you have a gold manufacturing talent that can help you build some of these items and help you get back from behind. And I mean, he does have the Infinity at a completed collector as well. So this GP will hurt if he manages to get a barrel chain on top of multiple members. But I mean, Adam, one of the biggest things that they're struggling with right now is finding a winning team fight, because it feels like they're going to get stretched across the map right now as Toon World goes immune. Is going to be drawing 4 people here just to knock down the Olaf, and he's not even remotely afraid of everybody. They does so much damage, and now they're running for their life. Aranchi's going to be the first one to drop here as Toon World's going to collect him. Level 16 Rivet. He is on the absolute wrong side of this one. He's going to be donated to become another hamburger again, and this just should be the final march in this game for GVSU.
Granted.
Oh, he just He just dies.
Yeah, it happens, you know, overextension, but, you know, pushing down on this third inhibitor, it's just game after this.
It's just so disgusting how many hicks that Abystigma has landed to land. Young Earth just trying to do anything to buy a little bit of time, wants to try and pad the stats, but he's not going to let him. It's going to be the Thresh walking away with a kill. Breakbone Branch ends it with a double kill, and now we're going to be going to game 3. GVSU going to be happy to even it up in the store and buy a new lease of life on this series.
Yeah, at the end of this game, you know, 16,500 gold lead for GVSU, absolutely pilfering everything off of the map. All the dragons in their favor, only 2 towers given the other way. Just a really good comeback. And I think that was more of the performance we were expecting out of GVSU in game 1, but Wake Forest really threw it for a wrench, you know, said, hey, we're going to sort of mix things up. We're going to prevent you from getting to your comfort zone. And unfortunately, this game, it just all started from minute 1. I mean, getting the red buff stolen away on a Twitch versus Caitlyn matchup, which Twitch doesn't really win in the laning phase at the very least, is just so tragic. And from there, just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. And we have to talk about how well GVSU just played to their leads. I mean, Toon World had a great bounce back game. I think League of Trees just showed what they can do on an early game champion. We talked about how they needed a QSS early. We saw the QSS early, so really smart purchasing power in that. And of course, SSJ Stepfather and the bot lane as well, just absolutely fantastic. Playing towards that win condition, even though, you know, everywhere was a win condition by the end of that game. So really happy to see GVSU get back into this one. And of course, the curse continues late and gets a game 3.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to see how game 3 goes here in just a moment. We've highlighted some of the things that went well in that second game, but now it's the full reset here. So game 3 coming at you in just a minute. Don't go anywhere because this game 3 is sure to be a banger. Within League of Trees, he might want to contest this. He's gonna know that there's no red buff access, so this will be a slow take. Does he see it in time? He's gonna get the knockup, but this should just be the first kill going over. Gets the smite, first blood.
Game 7 in Rocket League and everything for like a week and a half. Oh man, it's happening again.
Gonna be the knockup. He's gonna get the flash out, but he may not have the ability to live it here. Gets underneath the turret, but the knockup's made further. One more did it at SSJ Stepfather. He's gonna get a kill, and Orochi drops. So they actually end up giving 3 kills to get the Herald. I'm sure nothing's worse. Meanwhile, on the bot lane, though, it's gonna be Hook, Flay, Young Earth trying to survive. He gets rooted. He gets killed, and now this is just gonna be the bot lane for GVSU popping off. Palm Tree may die for your sins. As, nope, they actually managed to both get out. That's another hook! He just can't miss. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. And Breakbone, he still gets the kill on Orochi. Can he survive this one? Flay to buy a little bit of time on Reveled Earth to create a little bit of extra distance. And Abystigma lands another hook. He forces out the orange from it, but he ends up getting break.
No one has any control. There's League of Trees is here as well, but Palm Tree's not around.
Ultimate.
Oh my goodness.
That's the shielding. GP ult's going to come down on top of it, though. League of Trees got into the wrong spot. Wasn't able to get to the Lantern. This is a split fight for a bunch of different reasons. It's going to be a Talia wall coming in. Hook misses, and the end of Nerium's going to drop as well. And now Toon is going to be absolutely immune to everything. Arachi, he's trying to run. Get him off me! He tries to land a Barasmi in the wrong direction. One more Undertow would do it. And now level 16 Riven. He tried to save the Mord, but he only sacrifices his Rife. He's trying not to become a hamburger, but Toon World, he doesn't want to let him go. One more Undertow would do it. He gets a triple kill.
Armor. Then again,
you could just die underneath there. Armor may not matter if you're just dead. And speaking of dead, a lot of people are going to start to die on the start of WFU. Orochi is here. He's trying to do something. Palm Tree's going to end up back in the middle of a couple people. It's going to be League of Trees dying, even though he got into the ultimate. And now, what else can they do? This is starting to look not too bad for the side of WFU. What else can they get? Abystigma lands another hook, but now Breakbone is here. It's going to be a couple more kills going down. It's going to be the bow forward. And now he wants to try and pad the stats, but he's not going to let him. It's going to be the Thresh walking away with a kill. Breakbone Branch ends it with a double kill. And now we're going to be going to game 3. GVSU gonna be happy to even.
Hey guys, KTAD here, and as spring break is upon us, we too need a break every once in a while. But with that said, you know we've still got some great collegiate esports action for you, and playoffs is around the corner, so you know that these teams are doing everything they can to make the cut. Let's get into it. Starting us off, it's a POTG for POST as Hive spins to win and keeps his team alive in their series against the Colonels.
Because they needed that victory, they needed to know that the reverse if it's going to take place. Haas started with the best.
At number 7, Floppy's got a show to put on for us as he juggles Sen around the stage.
Off stage, how will they make it back on? Just immediately opting to go for ledge, eating an uphill, and totally not going to be dying quite yet. He is quite a hefty boy. But what a follow-up.
Yeah, ping pong with
It's overtime out the gate for our number 6 clip, and eBest Drew hangs it us a little to the left to clutch it up for Farmingdale.
Gets it over one, has Indemnity to work through now to flick over him. Chance, oh, it's top of the box for St. Drew. That's a goal, game 1 winner for Farmingdale.
Yeah, that's eBest Drew right here. Fantastic shot reception, or that pass reception, I should say. After Otto puts this across the top right here.
Up next is Curious George with the Cura Ace to clutch up the round for Keen. And yes, the editors came up with the name of this clip, not me.
Behind it, and now you're going to be talking about a bolstered post flank here. It would probably be in the best interest of Keen to go ahead and just save their weapon. Not exactly sure how their guns are looking, how their economy is looking, excuse me. But this just seems so unfavorable for them. They're sort of making it work, mind you. Curious George, he's going ahead and giving it the old college try. He's going to make it an ace, but does he have the time behind the snake bite? He can go ahead and stick on it. And by God, again! Keen just cannot keep getting away with it. They're disjointed, they're scrappy as all hell.
It's Ye Old Faithful in our number 4 spot as Putnut and Kofe toss out a huge Grav Dragons to flip the point and secure a map number 1 for Nickel State.
I think they're going to have to bait out this Immortality. First, we're going to see that committed on the back of the Grav, but the Dragon Strike is massive. A 4-shot for Kofe. And with that, the Colonels will take control of the point once again.
Now this might only be our number 3 clip of this week, but you guys have to check out this play from Not Leopard as he pulls off these ridiculous moves to juggle the ball right past the defenders of Central Missouri and into the net.
It's possible, setting up a counter-attack potential, but Van Schrager, Not Leopard, what? Oh, Not Leopard!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are all tied up in this series between Grand Valley State and Wake Forest University. And a lot of takeaways to go off of that second game. And Adam, you and I were talking about in the short break that I think comparing the two games side by side, I definitely think that Grand Valley had a much better second game than Wake Forest had a first game.
I would have to agree. I mean, I think the scorelines speak for themselves in that regard where, there was really a dominant, 3-lane plus jungle plus support victory for the side of GVSU in their victory versus Wake Forest where, there was some moments of doubt in there where there was comeback potential coming through from the likes of Brickman Branch on the bottom side. But overall, I think that we have to consider as well the team comps that came through and some of the other factors of the game. I mean, Red Buff getting stolen at level 1 is just really unfortunate and they really punished that. And in a lot of ways, it ended up losing the game for the side of Wake Forest in that regard. But overall, I think that they need to sort of fix up their draft a little bit. It seemed a little bit sort of all over the place in a lot of ways. I think, the Echo Jungle is great if you can get ahead, but it is so useless from behind. And, the Gangplank mid was a really strong point, but your bot lane just didn't have the tools to keep up with that Caitlyn Thresh.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've highlighted exactly what WF are going to have to do. And I think even one of the other things that we were discussing kind of towards the end of that game was now the draft advantage that GVSU is going to have, given the fact that now they don't really need to change anything and they're going to start off on red side again. So they can just do the kind of happy run back where they pick in the same things and they tell WFU like, okay, what have you got? Because we're going to have counter pick again. So you can either choose to try and ban out the Olaf or the Rek'Sai and recreate the same kind of draft, or you can try and change it up a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see where they choose to go with that and exactly what their mentality is going to be with that. And also like what their mental strength is going to be, because you had a decent first game where you managed to win it despite the expectation. And then you had a really rough second game where GVSU was able to turn it around. So interested to see how they're going to navigate that sort of that feeling.
Yeah, I think that overall, there's definitely some power points that we can take out of Wake Forest's victory in game 1 that they can translate back over to game 3. I think that, playing through your top lane and getting a pick like the Aatrox in their hands is going to be something that can turn the tables, and maybe just early picking that and saying, hey, we want to get our top laner on a champion that has that agency is a good play for themselves. But overall, I think there's other things that they can do as well to sort of change their tides in terms of their gameplay as opposed to their draft. So curious to see if they will opt to do so, because I don't think their gameplay was inherently worse from games 1 to game 2. I think it was more so their the gameplay from GVSU significantly went up in quality,
Yes.
and I think that the draft from GVSU also worked better in their favor. So a lot of factors going against the side of Wake Forest in game number 2 that sort of turned the tides.
And I definitely think there's an argument to be made about, if Red Buff doesn't go over like it does, going over to Young Earth, and then, a Palm Tree is actually able to get out on the map and get his CS going and not actually die to Rek'Sai in that level 3 in his own jungle, then obviously you're looking at a very, very different game as we're starting to see these first bans come through. So again, it's going to be the Set and the Aatrox and the Zed all hitting the ban board. It's going to be an adjustment there. They take away the Talia, obviously still denying Toon World his Gragas, which is something that he's put a lot of time in. Victor also going to hit the ban board. So what? It'd be that first pick priority. Are they going to try and get Oranchi in a winning matchup, or do they just try and wait until later and maybe lock in their bot and their jungle here?
Yeah, and especially with the Aatrox getting... What?
That might be mid lane. That is a flex. It can go top or mid, or technically, if you've been watching any Worlds, it could go support. If you've ever seen, a little bit of... what is it? Oh, just a little well-known LCK team that happened to have, one LCK Summer Championship called Damwon Kia, who happened to run that in the support position, and it tends to work pretty well for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's options with it. I mean, as well, Genji Lahans plays all sorts of crazy stuff as well, but that's an aggressive early game jungler. And I think, honestly, when you look at what Liga Tree succeeded on, the Tree did not go so well. The early game jungler worked extremely well. I'm sticking by getting the Thresh again. I have no objections to this whatsoever. He was absolutely incredible on that pick in game number 2. So just sort of recreating that and trying to build their draft from the ground up once again for the side of Grand Valley. I think just playing towards your comfort is what you can do.
I think the Xinhao pick is going to be interesting depending on where the Singed go, because you can definitely see some issues where it would be very difficult for Xinhao to lock that champion down. I definitely like the Vi answer there, so you're going to have quite a bit of bruiser / damage going on there, so you can definitely match what the Xinhao wants to do. You're going to have decent team fighting, you'll have decent lockdown set up onto the carries, and I think is kind of a middle ground, a good middle ground for what Wake Forest want to do. Obviously, they want something that's going to have some additional front line while also having CC and damage, and I think Vi fits that bill. It's going to be the third Alistair locked in there for level 16 Riven. I'm interested to see what the third pick for Grand Valley is going to be, but yeah, no issues at all with Thresh being picked up there, and yeah, that's going to be that's going to be Breakbone getting a hold of his Ezreal, so he'll be very happy to have that champion.
Yeah, and I think that with the Ezreal, it's not my favorite champion right now, but I think that in a competitive environment, it can do quite well. Main reason here being, you've got this Singed who's going to try and run you down. You've got this Vi who's going to be able to lock onto you. Ezreal doesn't really like playing against Vi because of the lock-on, but doesn't mind playing into Singed just because you're able to create as much space as possible. Likes playing into Alistar for the same reason, because they can lock onto you if you don't move. And Ezreal moves a lot with the Arcane Shift and everything. So very curious to see what the rest of the draft looks like. I mean, taking away that Olaf, taking away some tools from Toon World is going to be, I think, the play that they're looking for. But overall, we still need to see what SSJ Stepfather pulls out. I don't think the Syndra was an issue in Game 1. If they want to look back to it, it is a possibility if they want to save Toon World counter pick. But once again, very curious to see what Wake Forest want to sort of put together here, whether the Singed goes to the mid lane as we've seen JoJo do in Champions Queue, or if it's going to stay towards that top lane like we've seen every top laner from Season 3 to Season 4 play.
Yep. I definitely like Grand Valley, especially going forward in his draft, denying the Samira away from Young Earth. He had a pretty decent game in that game 1 on the champion. Obviously, they want to deny any kind of reset assassination looking thing where, Young Earth might be able to take over some of those team fights. And obviously, they definitely want to protect the Ezreal from that, as Garen's going to hit the ban board. Interesting that Garen would be the takeaway, given some of the picks that we've already seen, especially if you are maybe signaling that you want the Singed to go top lane. Not sure that you would be at all worried about the Garen into the Singed, so maybe signaling that they want that to go support and rather just trying to take stuff away from Toon World.
Yeah, and I think that Garen does better into Singed overall than Darius does, so maybe that's the reason why they took it away. They're okay sort of giving that one over, but curious to see what the outset of this draft is going to look like. But yeah, as expected, SSJ Stepfather is going to go back towards that Syndra. Once again, I don't think that was the issue. Curious to see if they'll opt for the Singed matchup into this, because I think that the Syndra had their way in lane against the likes of that Zed. It was just later on into the game when there was more attention paid towards that mid lane that the Syndra struggled. The Zed is banned out. You're going to have to try and find something crazy to pull through, and Young Earth just going to what I think is one of the best ADCs on the patch of the Kaisa.
Interested to see how that matchup will go, and I think also when you look at that first game, the fact that SSJ Stepfather was ganked so heavily in that mid lane in the early stages and wasn't really able to get a massive lead, even though the trades were favorable in the 1v1, I think kind of speaks to with some of the success that they're hoping that they'll have. The Kai'Sa getting locked in there for Young Earth, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially with the Alistar. Kenna going to be locked in the top lane. Now, I'm really, really interested to see what Toon World is going to lock in for this, because Kennen is a huge team fighting champion, especially with the composition that they have right now, and especially given what Grand Valley has locked in, it could be very effective. So they need to get something that could stop this Kennen from getting these point blank engages.
I'm curious to see how it plays out, because this Kennen here can get punished in lane quite hard. This is not a punish in lane, though. This is an interesting choice at that, but Kennen now should have a pretty free time in that top lane. I was sort of waiting to see what they wanted to do with it. It's interesting to see them opt for the Singed mid lane for Nerium. This is a pick that JoJo has pulled out a lot in Champions Queue to varying success. It does well into some matches, but it does pretty badly into other ones. A lot of it is just people don't really know what to go up against when they're playing it. So curious to see how it plays up with the likes of a Syndra. The Syndra can sort of scatter the weak to keep them away and keep them as safe as possible. But it's definitely an interesting draft coming through from Wake Forest once again. If anything, it's playing towards their wheelhouse. Aranchi does have a little bit more agency in that matchup for themselves, but once again, Toon World, if they are able to get that ball rolling, if they are able to get fed, Sion can be such an unkillable monster in the later stages of this game. So I'm curious to see how Wake Forest want to play this one out. They definitely need to improve their actual gameplay and match the level that Grand Valley has been able to put through. But I think in terms of their draft, it's still a little bit, there's still some shortcomings there, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that they're going to have their work cut out for them, especially with the way that a lot of these team fights are expected to play out. I definitely think that one thing is in their favor is the scaling. Obviously, Ezreal late game is a monster. Syndra in the late game is going to be a monster. Sion is going to reach to the point where he's just not killable because of the basically pseudo-infinite passive that he has, where the more minions he dies, the more health he gets. Obviously, he'll be building a lot of armor and health, so it'll be very difficult. I also think that there's a specific thing that's kind of missing here. That's a reliable source of magic damage. You're not be able to get too much out of Singed unless he's able to just straight run in. And I think that's one of the interesting things that Wake Forest are going to have to figure out is how do they get a reliable engage. So you're super reliant on Vi landing cease and desist on the back line. You want to make sure that you get head with pulverize. So they have a way to get in, but it's a question of how do they get out if a team fight doesn't go their way. Whereas you look at the side of Grand Valley, Abystigma, I think one of the things we highlighted in the last game, we talked a question about, can this Thresh land enough of, the hooks and the flays to matter in a team fight? Well, he answered absolutely yes. The man missed, I think, a grand total of 3 hooks in the entire game. So if you're wondering, is the Thresh enough to carry you in terms of CC? The answer is yes, because he hits every one. And there are a lot of really hookable targets on the side of Wake Forest. So it's going to be interesting how they navigate a lot of these engagement situations. And I think the question for you, Adam, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is where do these teams want to fight? What are their strong suits on the areas of the map that they can play around to get the most out of their comps?
So whenever you have a Kennen, you just want to try and fight in choke points as much as possible so that everyone is in your slicing maelstrom. As well, you've got the Singed to sort of double down on that, the Vi to triple down on it. Kai'Sa doesn't mind fighting in those sort of shallow corridors where they have the agency to sort of dash around. They get that extra little bit of mobility, but at the same time, Grand Valley doesn't mind fighting in the jungle either. You've got a Sion who can choo-choo train in from a correct angle and land onto the whole team. Syndra really gonna like when everyone is sort of funneling themselves in to a specific area for them. And Ezreal, of course, having that extra mobility that Kai'Sa can't always keep up with is going to be quite pivotal as well. So realistically, both of these teams really want to skirmish in the jungle, but it's just like Grand Valley might just have the easier to execute skirmish in that jungle with the Syndra, with the Thresh, with the Xin Zhao. There's just so much in potential and so much out potential for the side of Grand Valley that Wake Forest may struggle if they aren't able to find flanks.
Yep.
To that point,
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. To that point, in terms of flanks, if Kennen and Vi are able to get onto this backline, if they're able to get on top of this Ezreal onto this Syndra, they will have a really good time because their fight from 2 fronts is going to look so good. But it's so much harder to find a flank compared to just running in and finding your engage like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a matter of whether or not they're actually going to be able to get there. But I think traditionally when you've seen a lot of comps like this play out, especially in professional play, where you are super reliant, it's all eyes on the Kennen, whether or not he can get access to that backline. And I think Wake Forest definitely have the tools to do it, right? If you can land cease and desist on top of the Ezreal and stop this poking that he's going to be doing, especially when you're setting up around neutral objectives, and you can get slicing Maelstrom at least onto him and the Syndra, then the team fights look really good, because outside of the Ezreal and the Syndra, you're not really going to have a whole lot of damage. Sion is not going to be this, 1v9 damage dealer that's going to carry you to late game. He'll be able to absorb a lot of damage to set you up for team fights, but he's not going to just annihilate everyone on the map. Same thing for Zinhao. In the early stages of the game, especially when he's jungling, you can see a lot of trades that he'll win against the Vi, be able to contest for some of the early neutral objectives. But as he gets to the late game, they're not going to be reliable sources. So for Grand Valley, it's definitely a matter of protecting these two massive squishy damage dealers and making sure that Ezreal has a lot of time to free hit, and that the Syndra is also doing a lot of damage into the damage carries of Wake Forest.
Very curious to see what the development of this game can sort of bring, and if Wake Forest can sort of fight their demons from last game in a sense and just sort of overcome what was a pretty crushing defeat at that. And I think something that can be said for early season is morale is sometimes harder to keep in the early season when you're not as comfortable with the players that you're playing with. If you're a newer roster, it can be a little bit more challenging to sort of overcome these difficulties over time. So I'm very curious to see how Wake Forest does in that regard, because Grand Valley, they showed that they had the composure. They were able to come back after a pretty disappointing game 1 loss, and now they're in some ways the favorites to win this one as well. They're on the up and up in that sense. They've got the momentum in their favor. So I want to see if Wake Forest have that same sort of resolve to push through and keep their wits about them in that sense. But of course, it is early in the season, and this win would mean a lot for both of these teams. As we mentioned going into it, it's 0-1 on both sides. Of course, Grand Valley had the closer series, but Wake Forest now sort of defying our expectations, as we said, taking that game 1. If they can get this victory here, it would mean a lot for them, and it would really give them a little bit more of a confidence boost. So I'm curious to see how they play out in that regard, knowing the stakes. I feel like Wake Forest, though, might have a little bit too much pressure, and that may come back to haunt them as well.
Yep. I think the Singed being in the mid lane as well, when you're talking about like them building confidence, is maybe a sign that they do feel like they're confident a little bit. And I think also ease of execution outside of the Singed maybe having some difficulties in setup. I do think that the ease of execution is there for Wake Forest because their go buttons make a lot more sense in terms of the distance that they can carry and the setup that they can have. Whereas Grand Valley, they'll have to look for it a little bit. Obviously, Scion also takes a little bit of setup. You're basically just hoping for a straight shot, either straight down the river or up a lane or something like that, where you can get onto multiple targets, or it's going to have to be point blank range onto a carry. So I definitely think Wake Forest, if they could come out with a win for this one, they'll feel much better about having lost that first game of the season, and then maybe going into their next game in their next matchup. And then the same thing for Grand Valley. Obviously, they knew that their last series was close, and so for them to win this one would just be an affirmation, like, hey, we're actually doing the right things. It's execution.
Yeah, I think that execution is definitely something that you can fix over time, and draft strategy is something that doesn't always get fixed. I think there's definitely situations where teams will draft the same thing over and over again and say, oh, what was just execution, but it's actually their draft. But in a lot of senses, it's not draft that can be the issue. You can pick whatever you want, and if you play it well, you can make it work. And in that sense, picking Singed mid, if it works, it works. I'm not going to knock the off meta pick.
And you win with Teemo
stuff. Yeah, like, you can win with Teemo in Champions Queue. You can't win with it on the world stage. There's two different stages for that as well. But I mean, once again, there is a world where everything can win. And I think that the Singed mid lane here, if they're able to execute it properly, if they're able to find the right engages at the right times, find the win conditions that work for Singed, it may end up leading them down that road. But once again, Singed is not a carry. You're going to have to put all the eggs into the Kaisa basket, into the Kennen basket. Are those good baskets to put them in? Yes. Are those baskets going to be fruitful, and will they give you a victory? Yet to be determined. We'll have to find out how it plays out.
Well, we'll have to find out whether or not those baskets will in fact bear fruit, or if maybe they'll just be full of all the foreign stuff that you're not really sure what it's in it at all, tastes nasty. But one way or another, we're going to get something out of this game, because we are on to the Rift for game number 3 in the series between Wake Forest and Grand Valley. Again, Grand Valley electing to go on to the red side, and we'll have to see one way or another. One of these teams is walking away with a win, and one will be happy, and one I think will be disappointed, as it should just be the same 5 minutes. Oh, and Valley, they are stacking up on that top side. They might favor themselves trying to get an early kill. Do Wake Forest spot this out is the question.
And of note, I don't mind invades when you've got the Scion, because Scion can just charge up at Decimating Smash and go for it. They might just have a read on Aranchi. Oh my, he's sleeping.
Oh, he had to flash instantly. He did not know everybody was there. He was thinking maybe it was just a short invade, but that's going to give them all of the information that the entire team is in that top side. Palm Tree is going to see them passing like ships in the night. And ultimately, even though Aranchi lives to fight another day, that flash being down is going to be a pivotal point that League of Trees, I'm sure, is going to play around in that top side.
Yeah, of note, it is League of Trees who's going to play around that. Toon World, of course, just going to try and go for whatever crazy play the Scion wants to go for anyways, but League of Trees immediately going to that red buff may just go red topside, and that's the thing that Xin Zhao can do. It can sort of do the psycho gank, that I like to call it. Just go for an aggressive play as early as possible and see what they can find. So curious to see how that plays out. Obstigma standing on the ward, and they are completely... Oh, okay, just gonna put down their own. They're friends. Where's their friends?
They're friends. Look, it's the little puppy ward. Oh, it's cute. If it weren't annoying for the fact that it was giving information of which that question is though, does Abstigma actually know that ward was there and was just saying, "Ha, I know that you placed a ward here, and I'm just letting you know that I know." Or is he maybe trying to cover that potential buff being stolen? Because obviously, Palm Tree's not going to be there to take it, so you're not really worried about that. So, not sure why, other than just to BM, that he would place that ward.
I think the answer to that is just both, in a sense. Stigma just wants to stand there, maybe knowing that there's vision, but also to sort of prevent the invade from coming through. Granted, they're going to spot out the device starting on the top side, so Palm Tree's not going to be able to take advantage of it. Yeah, this is exactly what we expected, and Aranchi has to back off.
I'm not sure how I feel about him actually going up there, just because there's no significant level or health advantage for either of the top laners right there, and because he doesn't have access to the full kit, he's not really going to be able to lock Aranchi down as long as he has access to that lightning rush, so he'll be safe under the turret even though he doesn't have flash. So not sure if the time investment was there, and the fact that he gave over information as to where he was at too, I think is a little bit concerning. Not that they wouldn't have already known that just because, they had the word on the blue buff and know he didn't start there, but still, just confirming that he wasn't there, I think, is maybe something a little too much given over to WFU.
Yeah, and Horizon, I just noticed something,
yes.
And this is just the nature of the beast when it comes to us not seeing the draft. Narium is bot lane playing Kai'Sa. Young Earth is the one playing Singed mid lane. This is an interesting development.
I just now noticed that, Stepfather, though, having to flash out as we take notice of that. I did just notice that. So maybe they feel that he's a better Kai'Sa player. Interesting that they've done that. If they do win this game, that is something I would love to talk to them about in a potential, or hear their response to in a potential interview. But that is actually something that I had no idea to expect. This is going to be a Vi getting caught in this jungle where she shouldn't be, and that's going to be... Oh, the Scatter of the Weak doesn't get it! He fails the flash! No! First blood given over to League of Trees, and he strikes again! The trees speak for everybody, but only answer to League of Trees. Living up to his namesake, Palm Tree, going to be the first blood casualty in this game. They're not done. He lands on hook. It's going to be insta cleanse, but that play was absolutely hypey. I can't believe that he flashed and actually got that, especially knowing that Oleander was there to watch that happen.
That was a really, really interesting play overall. I mean, Stigma maybe not needing to flash there, not necessary, but yeah, Palm Tree missing the flashes, definitely a critical part of this game. The Vi will now have very limited range on that engage once she gets to level 6 to potentially go in onto the likes of this Syndra, onto the likes of this Scion, even if they want to go for that. But overall, yes, League of Trees finding themselves first blood, living up to their names, being the king of the jungle in that sense. Great play from Xin Zhao.
Yeah, an unfortunate casualty that Palm Tree, or unfortunate happenstance that Palm Tree was the first blood in this game, as it was in the last one. And that's super unfortunate, too, because Stepfather did miss the Scatter of the Weak to stun him up, so he actually could have made it over the wall, but just wasn't judging the distance right, mistimes it, or missed distances, and then just bounces off the wall, so you hate to see it. And I think actually really important, too, is the fact that out of all the people that were there, that gold actually went on the League of Trees, so it's going to actually make this jungle matchup that much harder for Palm Tree. Especially as he tries to find some way to get effect on this map. As if Trees is here, Aranchi should just be fine. Has access to the lightning rush.
Yeah, should be able to escape any sort of ganks that happen on that top side, even without the flash. So Aranchi actually has the flash back up and available, so they'll be feeling pretty happy. But overall, we're still in a situation where there's a tangible lead already building for GVSU. And I think that, especially through this mid lane with the wave pushing into SSJ Stepfather, they're going to be able to build that lead even more. The bot side, though, you've already got the cleanse off of Narium. Will that mean anything? Maybe not, but League of Trees already sort of staking their claim on this game.
Yeah. And for GVSU, I think you're perfectly happy to play this out very slowly. I think definitely on the scaling side, it definitely favors them. If you're looking just from top to bot, Scion gets really strong. So does Syndra, so does Ezreal. So they're not in any particular rush to play this. I will say, though, that as the game goes on, especially when we talked about ease of execution, if Young Earth right now not being punished too heavily in this mid lane for playing the Singe, so we'll just continue to passively farm up. It does become really difficult to lock him down, especially when his tankiness gets a little bit deceptive, which is one of the things I think we didn't talk about on the desk before we got into the game, was that Singe is actually notoriously hard to kill, especially if he gets kills or gets items.
I mean, rule number 1 of League of Legends is don't chase Singed, right? So we'll have to see what ends up happening if they, if these players are. It sounds weird to say this, but if they're old enough to actually know the first rule of League of Legends, it's been a while since that was a thing. That's something I learned when I was learning the game, season 5 or something. But now Singe doesn't seem as much. But interesting to note the runes and the spell choices that they went for. They went for Ignite Flash as opposed to something like the Ghost that we've seen JoJo go a lot off of. Of course, this is just off of what we've been seeing in terms of the resources that we have. You don't see a whole lot of Singed mid, but usually it's Spellbook Ghost or something in that mid lane to be able to swap around, to be able to get that extra mobility, and Singed loves movement speed. Remember back in the day when Raptor Cloak was a thing, it would just be Singed rushing Raptor Cloak and building like ZZ Rot Portal and stuff, and just being an annoying split pusher in that sense.
ZZ Rot Portal.
I miss days of that
I miss
item.
Banner of Command. I know I'll get flamed for that. I miss that item.
I'm flaming you for I like ZZ Rot. I did not like Banner of Command. At least not when it was broke.
Ooh, that's another hook, and this time he has no cleanse to be able to get out of this one. Going, so only going to just now come back up. Headbutt pulverizes, buys a little bit of space. Breakbone going to get quite a bit of damage, as our producer is now letting me know how furious he is with me in the chat as he's saying Banner of Command. Yes, I liked that item, but you know what I like more? I like GVSU getting access to that early dragon, as there was no response from WFU, though. Palm trees waiting in the wings. Full summoners available for everyone except Abystigma, who's going to be the headbutt pulverized right now. Can they get the lockdown? It's going to be the passive. Flay out to buy a little bit of space, but now Palm Tree is here. This is the potential double kill as long as the flashes go their way. Going to be the Lantern out. Can they manage to get free, though, as Abystigma standing in the way, making sure that there's no further knockup. Headbutt pulverized. The Riven on the wrong side of that one. He's going to get hook, flayed, and he's going to get locked down. Hook one more time just for good measure, and this will be the cow getting donated over as Abystigma going to pick that one up. Oh, you would have liked to have seen Ezreal get it, but they turn again around, and now Young Earth is here, though. What else can they do? It's going to be the patch getting thrown down. Lantern out. No, manages to throw him out. Flashes to it, though. Gets it out anyways. He's clean. He's going to survive the Ignite. He's going to survive the gank, and he's going to live to talk about it another day with the good measure.
What? What the heck? That was crazy coming through from Stigma, that entire sequence of events to keep Breakbone Branch alive. I mean, the roam down from the Singed was so scary with the Predator. You had to think that was coming, especially with those upgraded tier 2 boots coming through first item. But even then, you know, Stigma standing in front of the Vi to prevent the punch from going through, you know, blocking so many skill shots from Nary Moliander as well, and then being able to finish off that kill as well. Yes, of course, you would have preferred it on the Ezreal, but nonetheless, Stigma feeling really happy with that one, just being able to make that play happen. And honestly, that whole sequence of events, you know, 30 seconds, that's a highlight reel clip. That's what you send to teams, and you're like, hey, my Thresh is kind of cracked.
Kind of cracked indeed. Well, I mean, the GVSU, I mean, the fact that they outplayed that so hard is going to be massive for them. Is Palm Tree now going to know that League of Trees is starting this buff, but won't be able to deny it. We'll tick over to level 6, both of them, though, so no further fighting expected. Adam, one of the things I want to highlight in this top matchup that we were seeing there just for a moment before the camera kind of shifted, Toon World is absolutely getting the better of these trades against Oranchi, who has not really been affected too much by the ganks. Obviously, League of Trees has been up there a couple times, but to no effect. But Toon World is just silently gotten a small gold lead and has a small CS lead as well, and has just been absolutely smashing him in that top lane.
Yeah, just sort of running the table in that regard for now, despite it being a range versus melee matchup. Of course, Toon World is perfectly fine with this matchup, just sort of scaling up that health over time. Oh my goodness.
Not going to cleanse anything. Yeah, should have cleansed that hook immediately, because now he's likely going to die here. He's going to access the ultimate to try and create a little bit of space, and the chain's going to come down as well for the passive. And Young Yuri just trying to get here, trying to buy a little bit of space in order to get a kill. League of Trees not going to pop the Crescent Guard yet. Just wants to try and see if he can knock this down. Palm Tree's here, though, so that will be Breakbone Branch going down now, and it's going to be the full commit to make sure that they get a double kill. Abystigma's going to hook, but that may not have been what he wanted, as Jay Stepfather going to be there. Lands the Scout of the Week a little bit onto them, but ultimately it's just going to be 2 kills going for WFU, so they'll be happy to bring the gold a little bit closer to parity, even though it is a couple of thousand against them.
Yeah, just very, very interesting overextension. I mean, Stigma finds the hook, but Breakbone Branch just goes a little bit too deep going in for that play and just doesn't have the damage to deal with the Unbreakable Will coming through from level 16 Riven. Alistar, honestly, one of the tankiest champions in the game at level 6 once you get that ultimate, just because of how much % damage reduction you're able to take for yourself. So really difficult to have that go through, and very curious to see what they will continue to build up for themselves over time. Of course, Stigma going to have to continue to play as well as they have, but Breakbone Branch, the issue with Ezreal sometimes is that you just run into the fact that you don't have enough damage at the right times. And right now, despite Kai'Sa only having that Noon Quiver and the Longsword, she's pumping out more damage just because of her passive.
Something I think we'll have to keep a continued eye on, especially when we get closer to these team fights, is Young Earth trying to get closer to SJ Stepfather. He's going to throw one back, but won't be able to do much more other than just get some of the passive damage. Again, step farther. Just more than happy to kind of set this lane. You're not really worried about your scaling at this point in time. You're not losing any major team fights. Other than just a small misplay from GVSU, I think a little bit overexcited to try and get those kills. Something else I want to highlight too, and we did see this on screen, but we didn't talk about it, was the fact that League of Trees, while those fights were going on in the bot lane, while the Hoodwink and Hijinks were going from Breakbone and Abystigma, is he did pick up that Herald, and now he can look to drop this in this bot lane and get this Ezreal even further ahead, which will obviously give them the drag, which is coming up in just a couple seconds. Student World now trying to get himself out of here, but that's Orochi's full combo. Now he's got to find a way to get out of here because Ultimate was expended from Toon World, but he'll have the passive healing. More minis die, he'll get continued health, and this is going to be the flash over the wall for Abystigma. Doesn't quite land the hook, but it was just enough to scare him with Draws Palm Tree and Young Earth over, and now this will be another play going to the top lane as well. Pressure for GVSU all across the map, and ultimately good playmaking at the expense of absolutely nothing. Wait, Orochi's dead. Yeah. Wait, I just noticed that. Wait, that's why. Wait, how did he die? Okay, so that happened off screen, and we just a random dead doctor sitting on the top lane. Someone call a ambulance for that guy. Oh, Young Earth. Oh no. AC, fellow branch, walking down into this. Is going to be the full commit. Scatter the weak onto one. He's going to knock down Palm Tree first. It's Nerium in the back line, trying to get anything, but he just has no damage. The exhaust is going to come out, but Break Branch is not at all worried. Nerium's going to be slain, and Abystigma lands another hook. Young Earth just trying to survive, trying to get out, trying to trade for something, but all he trades is his life for absolutely nothing. And now GVSU, they are going to get the dragon and a whole lot more as GVSU win that small skirmish in the Jungle River.
Oh my goodness, just GVSU once again breaking out of their shell. They're able to find every single play that they want at the right times. I believe Toon World popped the Soul Furnace and then just flashed right on top of Aranchi, popping that shield at the right time to be able to find that kill. If I were to guess, I mean, we didn't get it on screen, so unfortunately not able to see that. But yeah, the Scions are just doing a great job, and Toon World just really coming into their own element in that right as well. So despite Aranchi supposedly having this lane advantage, look at the health that Toon World has built up. It's 2,500 health right now, 650 bonus health off of the W, the Soul Furnace passive there. That's pretty ridiculous. That's pretty good for him. He's going to be stacking up that health incredibly quickly, and an 1,100 gold lead already, even despite collecting that call, is just such a massive lead on there. But if we look towards that bot lane fight around the dragon, there's not enough damage coming out from Nerium Oleander. We talked about how she has a little bit more damage than the Ezreal in the early game. Ezreal wasn't doing any damage either. It was the Zinja, it was the Syndra who
it was a wet noodle fight
there. It was a wet noodle fight between the two AD carries, but unfortunately, neither of the AD carries ended up mattering too much. Just that Breakbone Branch was able to stay alive.
And I think something that we just saw there too, right now, where you're talking about the damage missing, is Nerium is actually not even confident to step up in that tri-bush near the tower, knowing that Abystigma, if he lands that hook, is just going to be instant death, because you have to assume that there's just someone there to take a lantern that's going to instantly kill you. And being down the summoners as well is going to induce further fear. And GVSU, they're just going to continue to slam these leads they've got right now. I mean, it's already a 5,000 lead. We're only 14 minutes in the game. A lot of that is in this bot lane as Abystigma just waiting to hook up the Kai'Sa, and still gets hooked even with the Alistar standing in the way. The Clint is going to come out, but it's not going to matter. Riven's just going to die. They're going to be happy to knock down this Burger as well. Lands another hook. Don't even know why we're surprised, because this man just can't miss. And so now it's just going to be further pressure. League of Trees is going to feel absolutely emboldened to get whatever he wants on this map. GVSU, they are so far ahead in this matchup that they have no fear, and the playmaking is just non-stop.
Oh my god, Abystigma's is just so nasty with the hooks. They're so good every single time. Yeah, it's not going to work out the way you want her. Never mind. Look at the damage Aranchi just took.
He's going to wait this out, and then he's just gonna go ahead and unstoppable onslaught away, or just choose to go back in. He's going to die and trade his life for it. League of Trees is here. Not sure why he decided to go back in, but did it anyways. League of Trees. He could look to pop this Herald here and just get the tower. I don't think it'll matter, though, because Toon's going to die. So, yeah, just makes the correct decision. He's going to walk somewhere else with that. But a little bit of overforce with Toon. Could have just looked to escape it, honestly, and fight another day.
Yeah, just... Oh. Yeah, we're going to be able to escape at that one. Just had to wait to see if that came through. But, of course, just overall, really, really interesting play across the map from these two teams. I mean, yes, the Scion dies there, but it was close. It was really close for Aranchi in that situation. Almost went down themselves, but nonetheless, GVSU picking up that Herald, being able to continue their push across the map, going to be looking really good for themselves. And I'm very curious to see if they want to continue pushing that advantage forward, or if they will end up just sort of stalling out the game, because I think that they can just keep pushing this advantage forward. It's about
he stepped into it and would have missed if he hadn't moved, and he almost died. I would like to know how much health that guy lived with, because I'm sure it was close. Yeah, 100. It would have been less than 140 at that time. We have no time to talk about that. Because Avastigma is going to be trying to survive right now. The Crescent Guard not going to be able enough to buy them time. 4 people in the jungle. They're looking to try and fight back. Young Earth just wants to run forward. Flash trying to grab League of Trees, not able to do so. Or sorry, kill him just yet. It's underneath the turret though. As Stepfather going to trade 4-1, and now Young Earth should just be dying to the. Oh no, manages to live with a sliver of health. Last turret shot, not enough to do it. Interesting that they're taking this fight right now. There was nothing really to fight for. There's no dragon available. Just, I guess, trying to get a little bit of gold back in their pocket and maybe get some of these summoners out before the next dragon spawns.
Yeah, definitely some interesting fights. I mean, it's a 2-for-1 in favor of Wake Forest, so they're actually feeling pretty happy about that. And, you know, the Singed able to survive with that Insanity Potion, health regen ticking, you know, you get that extra bonus. You basically become a stat stick for the next 30 seconds after you pop that, alongside getting Grievous Wounds on your poison, which is kind of nice. But overall, just an interesting situation for the side of GVSU to even bother with that flight. But then again, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just going to be about a 5,000 gold lead now stacking up for them, and it's sure to grow. Aranshi's in trouble once again.
That's going to be Slicing Maelstrom. Popped yet again just to try and buy a little bit of space. Ends up flashing out, and now he's at the mercy of Toon World, who's just going to keep landing these Qs over and over again, continue to stacking the health. But I think something that you talked about that was important to highlight is for WFU, you are actually happy with that trade, even though you end up giving Wolver 1 in the end. Because when you're fighting a team that's ahead, any trade that goes even is a trade up because you're actually getting more gold than the other team. But of course, that Herald is going to start to cement that gold lead just a little bit further. And I think on the wrong side of the map for this one, because Palm Tree is here to contest the dragon, but has absolutely no help.
Yeah, it doesn't really have the health, not in the right. You know, they don't have the members on this side of the map as well, which is the issue. And dropping that Herald topside was a Herald from base. So of all things, League of Trees able to get that tower for the Scion on the top side out of nowhere. And
he's still pushing.
This dragon just going down. Yeah, the Scion's still pushing. You can see there's 2 members tasked with dealing with the Scion. They're perfectly happy to take this numbers advantage in this fight. There's 3 people topside. What's going on?
Yeah, this is an absolutely split call. WFU not sure what they want to do. They definitely don't want to give over this dragon because it would give Dragsoul. Orangey has teleport, but most importantly, he does not have access to the ultimate, so there's no Slicing Maelstrom to set up for this. Meanwhile, GVSU, they have absolutely everything. If they wanted to pull the trigger on this, it should have been a lot earlier because now it's just going to be Breakbone Branch killing Palm Tree yet again. This is just absolutely split call. They end up paying for it again. They get the Kaisa on top of the Vi. They get the dragon that puts them on Dragsoul. Now they can honestly look to do whatever they want. They're going to be well set up for Baron in the next minute and a half. When that spawns, they can start to shove out these lanes. WFU just not able to make up their minds.
Yeah, really just not able to pull the trigger at the right time. I think just sort of decision paralysis in that regard as well, just sort of waiting for their time to shine in a lot of ways, but really not finding it either. So very curious to see what the next steps for WFU is going to be, because GVSU just starting to run away with this game, very much akin to how it was last game, you know, starting to stack up that soul as well. That's the main thing that I'm worried about. The fact that Infernal Soul just going to be sitting on a team with this Scion who does a lot of damage despite their full tank build. You know, this Ezreal who is just going to be able to fire like an artillery mage basically, or an artillery AD carry at the end. And this Syndra who, if we can get a check on her stacks here, we'll find out exactly where she's sitting at. That's 88 stacks, so she has the upgraded Scatter the Weak. Means the cone is bigger, does the slow after the stun and all that sort of stuff. So 12 more stacks, and then she gets up to that ult execute. And of course, the ult's going to do even more damage to set up for that execute with that Infernal Soul if it is collected by Grand Valor.
And the other thing that I think you highlighted there, which is really important too, is that infernal damage with Ezreal poking you is a lot more potent when you have no way to heal it up, because there are no healing, enchanters on the side of WFU. So whatever damage they take, it's going to stick. They don't have a lot of way to heal it up. They're not building any sort of regen that's going to, allow them to run off to a minion lane and kind of regen some of that health, or nothing passive that's going to build it. So the more poke that they take in the fights is going to mean the worse it gets. And, we talked about ease of execution, but GVSU, they are coming out ahead in the way that they're setting up for some of these small skirmishes. They're way ahead in the team fights. Their goal is in a really, really good spot right now. So they can continue to just smack Wake Forest with their wallets. And as long as they don't give anything up too big, I mean, they should be fine. But Adam, a question for you, because obviously you want to give due diligence. You want to be fair in assessments. Wake Forest, they are sitting 5 to 10 kills. They are a significant amount of gold down. But how can they get back into this, assuming that all things kind of keep going the way they're going? He's not even going to let me talk.
Yeah.
That's Slicing Maelstrom just to buy a little bit of time to live. But it may not even be mattering, because it's going to be the hook, the lantern out. Flash, they managed to get down Breakbone, but what do they give over forward? Level 16 Ribbon's definitely going to drop. Now Vi's just going to try and find her way on out of this one. Going to be on the wrong side of the map, so we'll look to try and reset. But they're not going to let this one go. Breakbranch Actually, no, I'm sorry. I called that wrong. It was actually SSA Stepfather that died. I thought it was Break Branch, but no. Wow, they're just going to start the Baron off this one. They know Palm Tree's there. This would not be where you want to get stuck. The respawn timers are low. And health is getting low as well. I think GVSU, I think they want to go and pull off of this one. Not the call they want to make, especially with the Wake Forest jungler still up. Does he get out of this one? Nope. Sure doesn't.
Able to get out. And to answer that question as well, Wake Forest need to get farm onto this Kai'Sa, which is not happening, and that's basically the one way in. Oh, what is this?
Toon World is likely going to die here and not going to be given much of an option. Young Earth threw him back long enough to make sure that he took a couple of extra turret shots. Will just get locked down. Going to get stunned. Toon World going to donate his life. So a little bit of free extra gold going into the back of the Wake Forest. So I'm sure if you're trying to find a way to get back into the game, that would, I'm sure, help to get more gold off of the Scion.
Yeah, and I think that if you're giving gold over to this Kai'Sa, that's the main thing. But look at this. Breakbone Branch has no fear.
Oh, but the Lantern timed out, so he's going to end up giving his life for it. Yeah, it's a cool play, but you give over the shutdown of the cannon, which is definitely not what they wanted to do. GVSU, they're starting to maybe get a little bit too big for their britches here and starting to give over some gold that they really shouldn't be given.
Yeah, just unfortunate at the end of it. I mean, I thought there was a world where maybe Breakbone Branch is able to get out of that, but it doesn't seem to be the case, especially with the Alistar around. But yeah, Wake Forest, I think they need to keep looking for these fights, especially when you're this far behind. You got to look for something that's going your way, and if they're going to overextend, if they're going to give you some gold back in your favor, you just got to take what you're given. And you got to say thank you to them as well, but at the same time, it's starting to run out of their hands. You can just see how much gold has been collected off of the map. Granted, a lot of the gold that they can get back is quite easy. If they get a Baron, they're able to pick up a lot of the standing gold. They're able to pick up these objectives on the map, these towers that they haven't really touched thus far. That can start to put the gold back into their favor and turn this game around. But unfortunately, the Singed mid lane not really living up to the standards thus far. It's about 2,100 gold behind. Not really doing a whole lot if we're being real.
The other thing that knocking those towers down will do if they can get that Baron is that it'll give them freedom across the map, because right now GVSU, they're able to get deep wards whenever they want them, and they have control over the positioning, so that means that they'll be first to all these neutral objectives. But if you can knock down at least that first round of our towers, then WFU, suddenly they have more pockets of darkness to play around. They can start to pick off players like Breakrow or SSJ Stepfather, but they may not be able to do it here because level 16 Riven just going to get stunned up a little bit. Not the target you want to focus necessarily as the Alistar, because he does have the Unbreakable Will, but yeah, WFU, they are being forced to fight for this dragon. This is what the dragon stack can get you as GVSU. How do they play this out?
Yeah, very curious to see what will happen. Oh my goodness, look at Aranchi on the flank, though. This could be big.
Once the Slicing Maelstrom is available, but the fight's going to start off now. If he can get into multiple members, he'll be able to lock them down. He manages to get the two important carries. The Ezreal and the Syndra are down, and now they just want to clean the rest of this up. But Toon World living so long for now. League of Trees trying to see if he can get one. He does manage to get it, but he'll trade his life. It is a 3-2 advantage right now, but it's just not enough as Toon World putting in the damage onto the Alistar. The jungler is still up for Palm Tree, though. They definitely don't want to try and give over this dragon if they can, but GVSU definitely won't be the ones to start it, and it ends up being a 3-for-3 in the end. Palm Tree going to get hooked up. Abastigma trying to hook into nobody that is there. Scion not going to be able to take the hook. Cannon caught on the wrong side of the map. GVSU, are they going to be able to run him down? Won't have the quickness to get out of this now. Wants to just put in the passive damage. Will have access to the Blast Cone. Going to get stunned up. Oh, the hook misses, though. Blast Cone over. Abastigma, Flay. Crunchy. He's just wasting time. Knockup's going to land. And Sion's going to collect the kill with a final ultimate. A long, drawn-out team fight ends up going to the advantage of GVSU, as technically they come out ahead on kills.
They come out ahead. They're going to actually have the cannon down when they do this dragon now. Doesn't have the teleport up anyways, so wasn't really going to be able to influence this map. So interesting to see that Stigma is the one soloing it for now, but it seems like they're going to get control over here. They'll have the man advantage, and that's the main thing that I want to point out, is that they will have some more agency to just take this dragon and start to look for the map. Palm Tree, though, going to try and find the steal. This is going to have to be a blind steal at that, so really difficult to tell when Palm Tree's going to be able to go over. Oh my goodness, this is bad.
Yeah, then was not the answer. He got over and he may get hooked up again. Yep, that's going to be ultimate committed there for SSJ Stepfather. The dies, and Adam, you know what this means? It's Baron time.
Yeah, Infernal Soul goes that way, and oh my goodness, it's going to be something to behold. This is Infernal Soul with this Syndra who can execute people, with Ezreal, with the Xin Zhao. There's so much damage on the side of GVSU that it's really, really hard to put anything against them.
This one ends a different. The Toon will actually manage to get out. I thought I'd seen that episode before. Apparently, it was the extended cut release that had the different ending.
Yeah, just to make sure that the Scion's able to get out. But, you know, all those resources at what cost? The Purple Worm, now should be able to secure this one without too much trouble. Might even look for the fight afterwards. Young Earth is looking for it. Oh my goodness, he's so fast.
They want to try to get in. He pops the quickness to get through there. What else can he get? SSJ Stepfather just trying to stay ahead of the scary man with the bees. Is going to get up going into the stasis, though, but will just be sure to die. Meanwhile, though, Scion and that can damage into the structures.
Oh.
They're chasing GVSU, but at what cost? They will for sure lose one inhibitor. Even if Vi can get there, won't have enough damage necessarily to stop Scion. And GVSU, they're actually just happy to sit here and waste time stopping the backs. They want to make sure that no one that can do damage gets back, so stop Scion. Hook's going to miss. Crescent Guard's going to come out. Near Molander. They definitely want to get the ADC. They do manage to do so. Another reset comes out, though. This Vi is absolutely just getting smashed.
Goodness.
That's going to be the inhibitor going down, and no one else is even going to be able to get back there to stop them. Riven is just trying to get away, trying to waste time to get clear, but yeah. Breakbone? They'll probably just let him go. Scion again in a 1v2 here in the bot lane won't have access, or does have access to the unstoppable onslaught correction. Can look to just engage us, but he's fearless. He's just going to go in on top of multiple people. The decimating smash gets interrupted, but it doesn't matter because the man with a forge in his chest is ready to forge these champions into kills. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Takes the lantern out, does already have the damage into the base, and now this is GVSU potentially just looking for the win. 30 seconds on the cannon. This is so dangerous for them. And Adam, this might be the end of the game if they can get enough of these structures down.
I think it might be just because they don't have the wave clear to be able to match it. That Scion did so much work alone down there for a minute and a half. Didn't matter how many people you sent. 1, 2, 3 did not matter. The Scion that lives seems like they will back off for better or for worse here. But my goodness, this Scion is just such a menace. That's a full item that they can complete next time they choose to recall. Yeah, Toon World is absolutely menacing. And nope, I think we doubted him a little bit after game 1. But
I think we did.
For what? For what? For this?
6-2-1. The man just bought a whole item, including Bramble Vest. The amount of gold that he just spent is equal to a whole item. If you were worried that Scion wasn't going to be able to survive some of the damage or wasn't going to be able to reach the late game scaling in time, which, by the way, I don't think we were, now all of those doubts are gone. The man is a problem.
Not bad at all for GVSU. 11,500 gold up. Once again, never do math on stream, folks.
It's a lot. If it hits you, if that amount of gold hit you, you would be very upset.
Yes, it's a lot to deal with, and I mean, now they're just sort of completioning the game here. They've got an open inhibitor on the top side. They've got this inhibitor now in the mid lane, and it looks like it's all wraps. Look at where Aranchi is, though.
He needs to get a lot closer if they want to try and take this. Crescent Guard's already going to come out. Young Earth is already knocked down below half. It's going to be the full commit on the Riven. Orochi, though, when is he going to clip the trigger on this one? Managed to get out on top of one. It's going to be the stasis for all Stepfather, and now that is the ult completely blown. That was their moment. He didn't get there close enough. Yes, the Vi is going to be there, but Breakbone Blanche, he's going to slay the Alistar. And now, what else can they do? They're just going to look to clean this up. Azmostal is going to try and land the hook, not able to do so. Double kill for Breakbone Blanche, and he's just happy to get this one. The Thresh is going to collect the kill onto the Singed, and GVSU, they're going to collect their second win of the series, and they're going to collect their first win of the season.
A little bit close in the series overall, but after that game 1, GVSU were able to get their wits about them and get themselves that victory. Honestly, a great series performance from them. You know, they really showed growth over the course of those 3 games, and despite a little bit of a scare from Wake Forest, I think GVSU are going to be very, very satisfied with that victory.
Absolutely. And I think a lot for them to take away from those games that they played as well, especially looking at their game 1 performance to games 2 and 3, night and day difference in that second one. And then obviously the third one was just a continuation of that. We saw some even massive player improvements, not just in the drafting and how they executed, but also like the clarity of what the jobs were. Obviously Toon World stepping up massively in games 2 and 3 on the Olaf, on the Scion, making his presence felt. And then I think you have to say that the player of the series is League of Trees. The man was absolutely everywhere, did everything that he actually needed to do, got so much value out of both the champions on the Rek'Sai and on the Xin set up his team perfectly, and I think you can't ask for a better jungle performance at that, especially when you have such a rough game 1.
I think for the entirety of GVSU, they really had a subpar game 1, and I think that goes even down to the bot lane, which, they did what they could, but they really weren't able to link anything together. Once that Thresh was sort of unlocked, once you got off of the Zac support, it's almost as if we saw Abstigma on as a completely different beast and was just absolutely menacing in that game. And I think overall, we've got to really look towards what this team can do in the future as well, because I think there is a lot in store for the side of GVSU. I think they are a team that has a very high ceiling, and if they can sort of live up to that potential, I'd be curious to see what this team can do in this league.
Yeah, I am as well. I'll be interested to see what their matchup is going to be going into the third round. Obviously, ECAC has not generated those yet, so we'll have to wait and see how they do. But I think for them, some of the learnings that they've taken away will set them up for success. But I think one of the other things, too, that you can look at is now that the other teams have seen them perform to this level, especially when you have games 2 and 3, where they have some very, very different drafts and they perform on them well. Now they're giving information to the rest of the league of how this team is able to navigate some of these situations and what their mentality is. Obviously, a wide range of champions that they can play, but how they perform on those drafts is obviously going to give them information as to who they're going to play. As we are getting ready to get into an interview, so we will send it on over to the interview desk for the interview. Oh, sorry. I've actually started. So it'll be the interview will actually be after the break, as the production is telling me. So we will send it to break first, and then we will have an interview. We had no idea to expect. This is going to be Avaya getting caught in this jungle where she shouldn't be, and that's going to be. Oh, the scatter of the week doesn't get it. He fails the flash. No, first blood given over to League of Trees, and he strikes again. Seen Ezreal get it, but they turn a gank around, and now Young Earth is here. Though, what else can they do? It's going to be the patch getting thrown down. Lantern out. No, manages to throw him out. Flashes to it, though. Gets it out anyways. He's clean. He's going to survive the Ignite. He's going to survive. Create a little bit of space, and the chain's going to come down as well for the passive. And Young Yuri just trying to get here, trying to buy a little bit of space in order to get a kill. League of Trees not going to pop the Crescent Guard yet. Just wants to try and see if he can knock this down. Palm Tree's here, though, so that will be Breakbone Branch going down now, and it's going to be the full commit to make sure that they get a double kill. Avastigma's going to hook, but that may not have been what he wanted, as Jay Stepfather going to be there. Oh, no. AC, fellow Branch, walking down in there. This is going to be the full commit. Scatter the week onto one. He's going to knock down Palm Tree first. It's Nerium in the back line, trying to get anything, but he just has no damage. The exhaust is going to come out, but Break Branch is not at all worried. Nerium's going to be slain, and Avastigma lands another hook. Young Earth just trying to survive, trying to get out, trying to trade for something, but all he trades is his life.
Let's look at Aranchi on the flank, though. This could be big.
Once the Slicing Maelstrom is available, but the fight's going to start off now. If he can get into multiple members, he'll be able to lock them down. He manages to get the two important carries. The Ezreal and the Syndra are down, and now they just want to clean the rest of this up. But Toon World living so long for now. League of Trees trying to see if he can get one. He does manage to get it, but he'll trade his life. It is a 3-2 advantage right now, but it's just not enough. As Toon World putting in the damage onto the Alistar, the jungler. They'll probably just let him go Scion again. In a 1v2 here in the bot lane, won't have access, or does have access to the unstoppable onslaught correction. Can look to just engage us, but he's fearless. He's just going to go in on top of multiple people. The Decimating Smash gets interrupted, but it doesn't matter because the man with a forge in his chest is ready to forge these champions into kills, and that's exactly what happened. It's going to be the full commit on the Riven. Orochi, though, when is he going to clip the trigger on this one? Managed to get out on top of one. It's going to be the stasis for all Stepfather, and now that is the ult completely blown. That was their moment. He didn't get there close enough. Yes, the Vi's going to be there, but Breakbone Blanche, he's going to slay the Alistar, and now what else can they do? They're just going to look to clean this up. Avastal is going to try and land the hook, not able to do so. Double kill for Breakbone Blanche, and he's just happy to get.
My name is Jacob. I'm 21, and it's my first year in this school. I already been to community college for the last 2 years, but I transferred here. It's a whole new program.
What made you transfer?
I wanted to do something different. I already have an associate's degree in business administration, and I wanted to come to this school and do audio production, just like music engineering stuff.
So what do you want to do with that?
The main goal is to work in like music studios and like help with like the music creation process. Anywhere kind of in the audio recording realm is fine with me.
And do you have a go-to genre of music that you like?
I don't know. It's all over the place, to be honest.
Yeah, no judgment.
It's all over the place.
So how do you like the program that you're in now? Do you like your school?
Yes, I really do like this school, and with this whole esport thing, I think it just made it a little bit better because like it's new, you know. You don't do it. Not everyone has it, and it's something that I'm very interested in and have been interested in for a while.
You didn't have esports at your old school?
I want to say there was a club, but I didn't know anything of it.
This is your first time being part of a collegiate esports team, then?
Yes.
And how do you like it? Like, how do you feel about it?
I love it, to be honest. Growing up, I played baseball through senior year of my high school. I wasn't like doing anything traditional sport wise in college. It wasn't until this year that I was like, oh, because like I saw it, like I saw like a poster hanging up. I was like, oh, esports, let's just go do it. I really like it though. Something cool, something new. My friends like it, so like cool.
What are your games that you play?
I play Valorant for the school. On like the side, I've been playing Fortnite recently, and I play Osu sometimes.
So how does it feel being a part of the team? Do you like your team?
Yes, I do. I pretty much made friends with all of them. Obviously, I have met them. Since a lot of things have been remote recently, I still have met them, and they're very nice kids. Our arena is being built at the moment. The Valorant team should be getting in there first, so I'm very excited to play in there.
What do you do to improve yourself in game, and do you take that strategy into your everyday life as well?
For in game, I try and play every day. That's kind of like the one thing I try to do. Even if I have like a little burnout from it, maybe from like the previous day, I still try to get on and do something. Of course, you watch YouTube. There's a millions of things that you can watch on YouTube. I like to watch different content creators in that niche just to like inspire me to play a little bit more, you know. Do I carry it into my everyday life? I do. I'm very into like music production. There's a lot of things you can do like the same thing. You do it every day. You watch YouTube in that niche. You take things you learn and you apply it. There's a lot of similarities of things like if you want to do something, you very much have to dive deep into that niche of things you want to do.
If you had to guess or just kind of spitball here,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Caster Desk. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce SSJ Stepfather, who is our interview today. Stepfather, how are you feeling after that series, getting your first win of the season and coming back after what was an interesting first game?
Feeling great. Team was a little bit in shambles after the first game, but we did pick it up, obviously, after the first game. We are pretty happy about that.
So what are we to expect from your team in the long run? I think just taking a step back from the season and everything, your team looked like it was you had a little bit of trouble just in game 1 in general, but pulling it together in game 2 and 3. Just walk us through like your team a little bit more. Just talk to us about what your team has in store and maybe what to expect from them this season.
We got a bunch. So for in store of us, I have a bunch more control mages that I want to pull out, and like bot lane is, we only pulled out like 2 different champs for bot lane this series. I'm pretty sure at one at least, but yeah, it was kind of just we're just kind of getting to the feel of things again because this team was kind of a last minute thing. So we are still trying to work on that synergy, but in the future, I think you can expect us to improve a lot, especially synergistically. We weren't playing as a team as best as we could. I know that for sure. So I think in the future, you'll see more team play.
One of the things I want to ask you guys, because you brought up team play, is we were going into the second game on the desk. We were talking about how the first game kind of went against expectations. In the second game, things started to kind of right in terms of riding the ship. What was the breaking moment in the second game when you realized that you guys were actually going to be able to get back in the lead and get control and actually even up the series? Like, what were the comms like? What was the team talking about? And what was the moment when you realized that you guys were going to be okay in the series?
I was feeling confident going into draft because I hadn't really figured them out at that point yet. But after game 1, I saw like what they like to play towards, so I banned their Zed. Hopefully, I could play against their other mid lane picks. We changed the game plan to get R5 for our top side, and also get good picks for our bot lane because we saved that for like the second rotation. But yeah, in the second game, we knew we were gonna win. Probably like around the early game when every lane was just started winning all over the place. It was really crazy. I was like, yeah, we're definitely going to win this game, or we should be able to close it out if we're not like trolling. But so yeah, that's it.
And of course, as this is going to be a little bit of a long season, do you have any sort of thanks you want to give out? Any sort of shout outs, any fighting words for any teams that are also in the league?
Oh, fighting words. Man, I don't even. Fighting words. Even if it seems like your backs are against the wall, you're lagging, your top lane to bot lane is losing. There's always something to do, like to improve on. There's always something you can do better. Don't get like overzealous just because you won one series. Just always look to improve and just try to have fun and be a little curious about the game so you can get like better and learn more.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Just going to get one more production note, as it's nice to be feedback from the players. Just we're waiting on the production. I think we're just going to go ahead And it tosses out to the end. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you guys so much for spending the time with us here on the broadcast. I want to thank you for coming to watch these teams. We very much appreciate it. And we hope that you guys will join us again next week for the next round of matches that we will have for the ECAC region. But that is going to do it for here on the stream. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
These preconceived notions, and we're willing to listen to our membership and read the room, read college athletics and how it's connected and how it's not, and take what we have expertise in championships, but also throw out some of the other stuff. I remember when we first started, there were some conferences were applying their amateurism rules to all of their esports competitors, and I think we knew enough to know that no, that's not going to work in an esports culture. It's got to be very different. And by the way, the NCAA was going in a different direction. You could see the train had already left the station on that, and so it's an incredibly dynamic area and ever changing, and will continue to change. And just as we didn't know when we started what it's going to be looking like, I think similarly we still don't know what it's going to be in another 5 years. I know enough to know that all of us are still going to have a thriving esports program that's doing a real good service for our members and for our competitors. But we still don't know necessarily what some of that is going to look like, and that's pretty cool about it all. Let me ask you this, because you all are used to dealing with your athletic directors, and each of them are dealing with what's in front of them in their athletic departments. My guess is at least some of your schools are that this is not necessarily operating within the athletic department. And can you talk about how you navigate that in a conference office, and maybe the best way to handle that, or do you have preferences? Do you try to steer them one way or the other? And just talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Sure. The majority of our schools are not under the athletics umbrella. We have one institution that perhaps by next year will be under the auspices of athletics, but most of them are in other departments across campus. Right. One of the things that has helped us is that we have support from the president's office. And so in order to participate in Mountain West events, you have to have an adult non-student administrator that oversees that, the eSport program. And that's where we get assistance with, eligibility checks and, please complete your roster, things like that. I don't know in the future, and it depends on, who's sitting in the athletics director's chairs, whether or not more esport teams will go under the umbrella of athletics. And I'm kind of indifferent in terms of whether it should, because I don't want esports to go down the road that some conventional sports have gone down with the NCAA. So we have a unique opportunity to kind of craft esports in a way that fits what esports is, as opposed to trying to fit it into a conventional athletics box, so to speak.
Right.
I think the success of our program and getting participation is exactly that. The fact that we're not tying it in necessarily to athletics and NCAA eligibility. Like Carolyn, we probably have 3 or 4 schools that are under athletics. And I know it puts them in a difficult position sometimes trying to make some decisions. I got a request recently to consider allowing part-time students to participate during this year, because some schools struggle sometimes to fill out all the games that they want to play with us. And we held off on that for now. We defer to the institution and say, what's your policy for those that are under student development or activities? What's your policy for allowing students to participate? And if you certify that they're eligible under your current policies, then that's good for us. I also think, and I was part of some of the conversations early on with the NCAA years ago about the NCAA getting involved as a Division II representative, and I was crossing my fingers that wouldn't happen, just because I think this needs time to grow, and expand.
Can I ask Rob a question, because you mentioned part-time enrollment, And one of the things that we've done here is that as a conference, we've just set eligibility standards, full-time enrollment, making progress towards your degree as the institution defines it. Are you guys doing something like that as well? Because we've gotten that part-time enrollment question and we've said no.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've gotten that far down the line, Carolyn, to ask for that. I think we kind of put it on the institution, but we do say that the student has to be a full-time. Now, they could be a full-time grad student, but they have to be full-time as from what the institution decides.
Yeah, our eligibility requirements are just as simple as can be. You have to be a full-time student in good standing.
Yes.
And after that, and that's about it. Now I think we wanted as few impediments to getting this thing rolling as possible in the outset. I do think